I see all the board members ready to go. Okay. So calling the meeting back to order. Good evening. This is the meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Trustees. Today is Tuesday, August 25th, and the time is 6:31 p.m. And welcome to our first regular meeting of the 2020-21 school year. We will start out by, let me make sure I get my order right. I haven't done a regular meeting in so long, I can't remember the exact order. First of all, I report out from closed session. The board met in closed session and did take one reportable action. And that reportable action is, I have to get to it. The board took action in closed session by a vote of 4-0 with Ms. Baden-Caswell absent to release employee number HR 825-201011 from a temporary employment contract. So that was all the action we took in closed session. And I will note for the record that we do not have Ms. Baden-Caswell with us tonight. She's not able to join, but we do have two new board members with us. Our two new student board members, Meta Atla and Thomas Lee. And do you guys want to just briefly introduce yourselves, and in a few moments you'll give your student reports, but just say hi and say what school you're from. Thomas, or Meta, you unmuted first. Go first.
Hi everyone, my name is Meda. I am a senior at Pali and I am the Pali board rep.
Great.
Yeah, and my name's Thomas Lee. I'm a senior at Gunn High School, and I will be the student school board rep for Gunn this upcoming school year.
Great, thank you, Meda. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, or Ms. Atla, I should say. Is it Atla, or is that the right way to pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
Atla. Ms. Atla and Mr. Lee, thank you very much, and we look forward to your joining us and participating with us this year. First, a couple of housekeeping items just to cover the protocols for virtual meetings. If you wish to comment on an item, when we get to that item, and I have to emphasize, wait until we're on the item. We've had an issue with some people raising their hands early before we get to an item, not realizing that means we have to check to see if they're trying to comment on an earlier item. So wait until we're on the item that you want to comment on before you raise your hand. And when we get to that, I'll ask you to electronically raise your hand. You can do that by either clicking raise hand in Zoom or by pressing *9 if you're calling in by phone. We're using a practice where we ask people to raise their hand on an item anytime before the first person speaking on that item is done. The reason we do that is we need to get a count of how many people are going to speak, because that, per our bylaw, drives the amount of time that each person will receive. So we'll make sure you raise your hand before the first person is done speaking. Then we'll look at the count at that time, adjust the time if we need to, and we'll take it from there. So after the first person is done speaking, the speaker queue will be closed for that item. And if you join the queue, you just won't get called. Finally, since we're not all together, we will be doing roll call votes on all items per education code. And as the board secretary, Dr. Austin will do the honors on that. So that's our housekeeping. Our next item is approving the agenda order. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda order.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Durup, seconded by Mr. Dauber. Any comments or proposals on the agenda? Okay, moving directly from the vote. Dr. Austin, do you want to take the vote, starting with our the preferential vote by our student board members?
Yeah, thank you. I forgot the order, so appreciate that. Let's start with the preferential vote. Ms. Atla.
I say I agree.
You can just say an aye.
Or aye, or yes, or
Aye.
or
Perfect.
heck yeah, any of those work.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. DiBrienza.
Aye.
Mr. Dauber.
Aye.
Mr. Durup.
Aye.
Mr. Collins.
I also vote aye. So the agenda order is approved, and the first item on the agenda is the Superintendent of Schools report. Dr. Austin.
All right, thank you. Although I think it's fair to say that we all have a sense of loss for our traditional start of school. We're happy to say that the academic program and experience appears greatly improved. And, it's really no big surprise given the large investment in professional development and our totally committed workforce. Almost 100% completed a really robust program, and what we're seeing with consistency and quality reflects that investment. So thank you for everyone involved there. The California Public Health Department issued some information about bringing back special education and small groups sooner. We received that this afternoon. What I would say is, like many documents, it raises as many questions as it resolves. We'll have more information in the next week or so. While I'm tempted to want to talk about some of the things that are contained, I'm going to wait because I don't want to misinterpret what's there or provide editorial comments without being fully educated on this particular document. It looks like Southern California school districts may reopen before Northern California. That's interesting. I'm not sure that was what we had predicted a short time ago, but it's definitely the path that things are on right now. We're in contact with some of the districts in Southern California. We'll monitor the pros and cons of how they reopen, including what's to be learned through the process. Just a last topic, really. Athletics has gained some attention here. And I want to start out with something I thought I would never have to actually say. I thought it was so well known. I am a fan of athletics and believe that they are important to school districts and for students. The same is true of all extracurricular activities. But some have asked about the connection between athletics and bringing back students. And I understand I'd written something and had them both in the same paragraph. To clarify, there is no connection, practically speaking. We don't have CIF competition till at least December. But I do have several concerns about bringing back athletic conditioning with our coaches in the short term. And I've been in communication with our principals and athletic directors. We see groups, crowds mixing. This weekend I was on Cal Ave, been on University. I don't make a secret of it. I do enjoy the outdoor dining in town, but try to follow all the rules. But when you look into our parks, our trails, the mixed family and groups and tables and outdoor restaurants, including students, that's not looking like we're totally committed to getting students back into schools. We had a picture sent to us from parents who saw 3 students in mass standing in line for textbooks together. And while that's a stark contrast to some of the scenes all around town, it's also likely that hundreds of students working in cohorts on our campuses for athletics before the return of any other students receiving academic in-person support just seems out of sequence. And so what we're asking for is just a little time. We've asked for time in the past and it's always worked out well. 2 things can be true at the same time. Athletics and in-person academic instruction are decoupled, but we do have a prioritized sequence to our work. Athletics and extracurriculars are important and we brought back safely, but within the sequence. So don't read anything else into that. Hopefully we'll be able to figure some of these things out shortly. In the meantime, I do want to just say thank you to both of our athletic directors who their entire position is dedicated to bringing back athletics, and they both understand and support our short-term right now decision to just wait. Let's go a little bit slower. Let's get it right. If we would have come back when we were first able, we would have been shut down for poor air quality. So, there's a lot going on right now. We'll get there. So that is it for my report tonight. You'll hear more about some other topics on our agenda.
Okay, and per my earlier comment, we'll test the hypothesis. There are 2 hands raised, and I will check to see if they want to comment on the superintendent's report or some other item. So can we get the timer and the process ready, and the first is Catherine M. Jordan, followed by Naila Sadek. Ms. Jordan, did you want to speak to this item?
I was hoping to speak to open forum.
Okay, so if you take your hand down and when we call open forum, raise it again, that'd be great. And then Ms. Naila Sadek?
Hello?
Did you want to speak to the superintendent's report or something else?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I have a specific question regarding athletics. The football program was practicing outside for 4 weeks in between June and July, and that seemed to have been working out successfully because we don't have any, thankfully, any COVID cases, any transmission in our in the group, and everybody strictly adhered to the protocols of social distancing, masks, and no contact. And the football program was divided in the cohorts of 12. What is stopping us from continuing the same? Because that seems to have had a positive effect on not just the football team, but the whole morale of, the kids, especially the ones that are in their senior years that are, facing a lot of adversities with regards to their college applications and everything else. So if that's something that doesn't go against the county rules, nor the school district rules, why can't we allow that back on? And the second question, which is kind of tied into that, while all schools are online, the daycare pods are still happening on the same school premises. So how does that, what is the logic behind it? If we're all trying to be disciplined and hunkering down and keeping social distance, to me, that seems a little odd because it doesn't necessarily stop the community spread if we still have groups of people, even if it's elementary school kids being dropped off and picked up by their parents. To me, what it seems, what's happening is basically we're prolonging, we're trying to flatten the curve. And by allowing some groups to gather and some not, we're just delaying that moment. So I would appreciate if you can comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, it's your report. Any comments on those items?
Yeah, I think I laid out the thinking behind athletics about as far as we can go on it. Is it allowed? Yes. Is it prioritized right now to be number one in line? No. I think I laid out the whys, and we're hoping to get that back in as soon as we can in a sequence that makes sense, in a way that we're confident that we can deliver without unnecessary risk. And the other piece, I think, was Mr. Collins, respectfully, I would consider that more of an open forum topic. I don't think that was agendized, so I don't think it's appropriate for me to comment to that right now.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments on the superintendent's report, seeing none from the board members, we'll move on to student board member reports, your maiden reports. Since Ms. Allo went first on the introductions, how about we go first with Mr. Lee on the reports?
All right. Thanks for welcoming Maida and I to the board. It's a great honor to be here and to represent students, especially as we move into distance learning and hopefully in the coming weeks, coming months, actually, school reopening. So I'll kind of break my report down into two parts. First, I'll give an overview of how distance learning has been going for us in the first few weeks, and then I'll move into some events that we've been doing to support students. So I would say overall with distance learning, we had a smooth start to the school year. Classes are underway, learning is starting, and I think that's a lot that we can ask for. And I want to thank district staff and Gunn administration for all the work and the planning they put into ensuring that we're able to start out school in this way. I think that professional training for teachers and staff has been really helpful over the summer. Teachers have been super encouraging and supportive towards students. And I can see that a lot of them are using new tools to try to help students really engage in the learning. And obviously there's still kinks to sort out, but I'm sure that we'll work through them in the coming weeks and that it will be improving as we move on. Unfortunately, I do have to report that there were some very disturbing Zoom bombing incidents at Gunn last week. There was someone who came into one of our classes and made racist, sexist, and anti-Semitic comments, but we have been trying to take action to prevent that from happening in the future. SEC has created guidelines for both teachers and students to ensure that if this does happen in the future, that there's a protocol to follow so that it doesn't become too destructive. And teachers have also been reminded of security protocols. So hopefully these people don't even get into classes in the first place. Kind of moving on to the student attitude towards distance learning, I would say we're not super thrilled about it. Obviously, we want to go back in person as soon as possible. But I've heard from students that classes have been going better than they expected. So that's a positive thing. It's been decent and learning is happening. So that's always a plus. But as I said, like there's kind of this resigned attitude towards distance learning. We're not super thrilled about it. We'll make do with what we have and try to adapt. And talking with students, I've also heard that there's a lot of feedback for distance learning. On one part, Zoom fatigue is a real concern. It can be really tiring sitting in front of a computer for 6 hours. But thankfully, Gunn has set up a virtual wellness center and the wellness staff has been super supportive and welcoming to students who do need that support. I've also heard from students that there are some concerns with like the Monday bell schedule because 30 minutes isn't too much time to really fit in a lesson. And it can also be tiring to go from class to class, 7 different periods, or for some students, 8 for 6 hours. So hopefully there will be an opportunity for feedback and for changes as we move along. But moving on to some events that have been going on. The Friday before school started, we had a town hall with Principal Stratton. She was very welcoming and helpful in answering some of the students' questions as we moved into the school year. On the same day, we had freshman orientation. The incoming class of 2024 had their orientation online and they were able to meet with their self-cohorts. Oracle, the student magazine, also was able to send out a copy of the first issue to every student via mail. So that was really nice. Some ongoing events that we have include textbook and material distribution. There's been a couple delays due to air quality, but moving forward with that. SEC is also doing staff introductions over social media to try to get students to get to know the teachers in the various departments. We're also hosting a mask decoration contest for students to design a face mask. So that's been pretty nice as a welcome back. Freshman officer elections are going on. I think applications were due yesterday. There's pretty good turnout and elections will happen on Friday and club chartering is ongoing as well. Some upcoming events we have include back to school night. That's on September 3rd. And we're also planning a virtual spirit rally to try to replace some of the missed elements that we had, like the back to school dance and some other traditions that we have coming back to school. Sorry, that was a long report, but thanks for listening.
Thank you. That was excellent. All right, Ms. Adler.
Hello. Like Thomas said, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the events that are going on right now at Pali. So first off, last week was the first week that we were back in school, obviously, and the Pali administration in coordination with InFocus created Pali welcome videos in order to introduce the staff and admin to the students. Senior Camo Day and Senior Swag Pickup were on the first day of school where the seniors, the class of 2021, we were able to gather on the quad, obviously practicing safe social distancing, and pick up the senior swag bags that administration graciously organized. Freshman orientation also happened online via Zoom. We had class meetings and videos where each grade specific officer created videos for the class to view in order to create a sense of bonding and something to look forward to. Freshman elections, the packets were due on August 24th, yesterday, and the elections will be held on Friday. Pali Connect, where teachers and ASB members hosted various activities like baking cookies or taking selfie classes for students to log into and enjoy. Club applications are also open. We hosted the first presence meeting yesterday. The other one will be held in September. Back to school night is also scheduled for September 3rd for us, and ASB's top priority is to make sure that students are connected via virtual events, and ASB is currently brainstorming virtual ideas for this. Thank you.
I like the virtual brainstorm for the virtual events. Dr. Austin, did you want to add anything? I think some of us had heard about the Zoom bombing. Did you have any report on that?
Yeah, I sure do. And Thomas, thanks for bringing that up. Because it is important, and we've had so few incidents. We have protocols that can authenticate our student users. And this particular is first day of school, and one was missed, and that happens, right? So these people were able to get in, but if there's any good news to be had in this, we were able to track it back, and these were not Palo Alto students. One was from an address in Romania, and the second was in New York. The teacher involved used it as an uncomfortable, of course, but a teachable moment. It happened to be a social justice course that was being taught. So while we're not happy that any student was exposed to it, they were not our students. Don't even know if they're school aged. And we've got it cleaned up and protocols in place to prevent it in the future. So unfortunately, there's some of that out there in the world, and it's okay, I think, for our kids to know about that and to deal with it and rise above that.
Thank you. All right, glad to hear it. And thank you for those excellent reports. That was great. Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on now to open forum. Anyone wishing to address the board on a non-agendized item can do so at this time, and we encourage you, whether you want to speak or have things to say and don't want to speak, you can email us comments at board@pausd.org. It looks like we have a small number of speakers today. Oh, I say that, and now, of course, the number starts going up. So let me wait a beat and just see if we can get a rough count so we can set the time appropriately. And I've got my cheat sheet that tells me how to translate people on the list to the time. Okay, so let's start with a minute and a half, which is the number for 16 to 20 people. And if we pop over 20, well, it looks like we're at 20 already. So why don't we, we'll go with 1 minute. Yeah, we're at 20 already. So let's set the timer at 1 minute, and each person will get 1 minute. The way it works is that we'll unmute your microphone and invite you to talk. The timer won't start until you start talking. And then when the timer ends, the system will automatically, after a very short grace period, move on to the next person. So try to wind up your thoughts. Keep your mind on the timer as it gets toward the end, and wind up your thoughts. And if you get cut off, or if you have additional comments, you're welcome to email them, and the board does read its emails promptly and thoroughly. All right, first up is Catherine N. Jordan, followed by Meb Steiner, followed by Adrienne Germain. Go ahead, Ms. Jordan.
Thank you. In light of some of the comments Dr. Austin made during the superintendent's report about Southern California districts possibly reopening prior to Northern California, as well as in light of the Palo Alto Education Association Teachers Union agreement on the agenda later in the board meeting, I wanted to read to you some of Dr. Austin's comments and other prominent educators and officials about in-person instruction. Dr. Austin said the quality of a student's education would be reduced if the district operated entirely online next fall. Distance learning is a challenge in any experience, Newsom said, Governor Newsom, in his daily briefing. In-person instruction would be far more preferable, he said. In her speech, Randy Weingarten, head of the American Federation of Teachers, said teachers want schools to reopen. Children need in-person instruction, she said, adding that remote instruction is no substitute for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our esteemed CSEA president, Ms. Meb Steiner, followed by Adrienne Germain, followed by one name only, Michelle.
Good evening. This is Meb Steiner, CSEA president. I'm speaking tonight about our parcel tax, and I just want to thank the committee members for reaching out. CSEA is re-endorsing the parcel tax and is very supportive of this. And we are also requesting donation funds from our political action committee. I've been a part of Palo Alto schools for 53 years, and I have seen the amazing support our community gives to our public schools and public education. And I have great faith and optimism that our community will once again step up. I so believe in our community, and we need our community now more than ever. And so I just offer our support, and I want to thank our community for the past support, and I know they will once again be there for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that sentiment. Next up, Adrienne Germain, followed by Michelle, followed by Brian Guan. Go ahead, Ms. Germain. Are you there? Okay, let's go to Michelle. We'll come back to Ms. Germain. We'll go with Michelle, followed by Brian Guan, followed by David Cohen.
Good evening. This is Michelle Liu. I'm a Pali grad and a current parent in the district. I was dismayed yesterday to learn about racist signs that have appeared at least 2 school campuses this month. The signs reference the Wuhan virus, but we know that the World Health Organization recommends that we not name viruses by geography. I would respectfully request that the school district take a public stance in condemning these signs. Thanks so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Next up is Brian Guan, followed by David Cohen, and then we'll try Adrienne Germain again.
Hi, this is Brian Guan. Can you hear me?
We do.
Okay. I'm a parent of 2 Pali boys. This is my first time attending the school board meeting. I'm wondering, has the school board heard about the LA Unified School District's plan to test all students and staff periodically in order to facilitate a safe return to in-person learning? As far as we know, they are working with a Bay Area startup called Summer.bio for a highly automated testing protocol to keep the costs down. And they're working with Microsoft to develop a contact tracing system since May. We hope the school board will consider getting on board a program such as this one. And of course, we as parents are very eager to help with fundraising, medical and technology expertise, industry outreach, etc. should the need arise. So we did a little bit of preliminary research. I think their estimated cost is around $300.
Yeah, sorry for cutting you off there, Mr. Guan, and you're welcome to email additional comments to the board at board@pausd.org. Okay, next up, David Cohen, followed by Dave Bell, followed by, it looks like Ms. Germain has fallen off the list, but maybe she'll come back, followed by Lestina Trainer. Go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you very much. My name is David Cohen. I'm an English teacher at Palo Alto High School for about 19 years now. I'm the vice president of PA, speaking strictly in my personal capacity as a parent and teacher. I've just wanted to say to the community, first of all, your kids are great. They've always been great. And it's so nice to be back working with them after all this time of worrying and planning. Many students have shared with me that there are some advantages to online learning, and that as much as all of us want to go back in person when it's completely safe, we are getting some benefit out of this. And I have never seen this level of communication among teachers. People are stepping up, but even with new training and new tools, it takes time. There's a gap between learning and executing. I worked in radio for 5 years in my late teens and early 20s, and the dials and controls were so confusing. It took a lot of practice. And even after a full 5 or 6 months of Zoom, I'm still finding little glitches and features.
So sorry to cut you off. I really hope you email the rest of your comments because I was looking forward to hear them. Next up is Dave Bell, followed by Listina Trainer, followed by Ashley Hung.
Good evening. First, want to express my appreciation to the board for the special meeting it conducted a couple weeks ago on the subject of special education. To that end, I'd be curious to hear when the board and Dr. Austin plan to address the new guidelines that came out from the state on returning to in-person education for those special education children for whom they cannot access their education via distance learning. And what the plan is for developing and publicly disseminating that plan. Lastly, I'd like to have the school board go on record and confirm that it is the policy of the school district to make up the backlog of services that have not been delivered for the last 6 months during the course of the coronavirus closures for those students that haven't been able to access it by distance learning, and hope that can be addressed as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And just board members aren't permitted to discuss these items because they're not agendized, but just to clarify, because you mentioned it before, Dr. Austin, you said we got guidelines on that topic today. Is that what you're saying? And sorry if I called on you when you're away.
No, I'm not away. Yeah, the press release is around 1:15, and we're receiving, even since this meeting's began, associations are writing summary statements. So AXA, the Administrative Association, I expect something from CSBA, Capital Advisors. And honestly, those are sometimes more important than the actual document.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have comments, but I need to make sure I understand it before I start firing away.
I think that's completely appropriate. I just wanted to clarify for everybody that we got the first input we've gotten since the governor's message today.
Yes.
So we're reading and trying to figure out, and hopefully we'll move to action as soon as we possibly can.
That's right.
All right, next up, Listina Trainer, followed by Ashley Hung, followed by Ian Wilson.
Hi, thank you. I'm fairly new to Palo Alto. I moved here at the beginning of last school year from Connecticut, and I have a son at JLS. Just this evening, through another parent, I was able to get my hands on a copy of the resolution for Black students. I hadn't seen it before, and I had emailed trying to find out if the school system had made any sort of official statement in light of events this summer. In reading the resolution, I will just say that it seems a bit vague to me. It denounces discrimination, affirms commitment to safety and well-being, says it will increase efforts to be welcoming, will confront biases. I would say that this is a really tricky topic, and it's not something that can just be taken on without maybe a professional audit and then professional instruction in leading anti-racism education for all student body and faculty.
Thank you. All right, next up is Ashley Hung, followed by Ian Wilson, followed by Emily Watkins.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hung and I'm a sophomore at Pally. And yesterday was definitely a very mentally draining day for a bunch of students because we had all 7 periods of the day and each class was 30 minutes long. And as Thomas, I believe, mentioned earlier, it was just overall a really exhausting day for students. And I'm honestly unsure of who's in charge of creating the schedule. So I don't know if this is the right place to say this, but I think that I know one of the schools nearby has a designated Zoom free day once a week where students can just do individual work. And I think that it would be really helpful if we could adopt the schedule or at least make some sort of adjustment to the Monday schedule to relieve stress and just make school a better experience, especially for Mondays. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ian Wilson, followed by Emily Watkins, followed by Alexander J. Brooks.
Hello, members of the school board. My name is Ian Wilson, a Pally 2009 alum. I'm here as part of a group of alumni who are committed to holding the school board and the district accountable to its promises to implement anti-racist practices in PAUSD. We're here because in a recent board resolution number 2019-20.23, you resolved to confront the biases in our school district and actively engage in the challenging work of dismantling the problematic practices that are limiting the opportunities for our Black and Brown students. Specifically, you recognize that there are employees and students who have felt harmed and who want the board to take immediate action. We're here today to ask you, what immediate actions are you taking as a school board? The harms of racism do not stop in the midst of a global pandemic, and it is in fact further exacerbated by it. Although we all recognize the urgency of discussions about fall semester planning and the difficulty for all teachers and students in engaging in remote learning, it does not excuse silence on matters of systemic racism, especially as you have previously committed to taking action. Thank you.
Thank you. A perfect 1 minute speech. Well delivered. Emily Watkins, followed by Alexander J. Brooks, followed by A. Kalolo Harris Evans.
Hi, my name is Emily Watkins. I graduated from Gunn in 2011, and I am following up on Ian's comment. While attending Gunn, I was often told how ready I would be for college. I may have learned how to BS a paper, but I certainly did not learn about many issues, events, and social systems that were discussed in my sociology and education classes in college. I feel like I was let down intellectually by my district, but I know that so many were and are let down systematically by the district. I speak today because as one of the quote unquote best districts in the country, I hope we can become leaders in anti-racist education because I know we have the resources. This summer, you passed a resolution denouncing racism and supporting equity, safety, and well-being of Black people. The resolution said, "We recognize that there are employees and students who have felt harmed and who want the board to take immediate action. We expect to see immediate action." Thank you.
All right, next up is Alexander J. Brooks, followed by A. Kalolo Harris Evans, followed by Alexander Petrov.
Thank you. I am also part of the group of alumni asking the board to live up to its resolution on anti-racist reforms. I'm a Pali grad, class of 2012, and some of you may remember that when I was in high school from 2008 to 2012, a group of us formed a student equity action network dedicated to closing the achievement gap, which culminated in changing the graduation requirements for people graduating from our district in order to eliminate the achievement gap. And I understand that 8 years later, very little, if any, progress has been accomplished in that time. And I think it's in large part because we do not need, window dressing words on a page that go no further than that. We need actual radical change throughout our district to bring about anti-racist education and structural change to eliminate the longstanding racism that exists. It's something that I think education truly does have the power to change. But if it does nothing, if there's no legitimate change from kindergarten on up, it will just allow racism to be perpetuated. Thank you.
Thank you. Another perfect 1 minute. A. Kalolo Harris Evans, followed by Alexander Petrov, and then Lisa Talbot.
Hi, my name is Kilolo Harris Evans. I have a third grade son at Escondido in Spanish immersion, and I'm also piggybacking in regards to the resolution for denouncing racism and supporting equity. And so in regards to number 4 about PAUSD will confront the biases, I want to know what active steps will be taken with English only Spanish Mandarin immersion distance learning education to address Black Lives Matter as it relates to structural racism within the schools. For example, curriculum content beyond Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., materials that represent and are inclusive of all Black, African descendant, and Brown lives, including but not limited to inclusive materials for arts and crafts projects, equitable offerings of resource supports, and teacher administrative bias, etc. So that is my question for this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Alexander Petrov, then Lisa Talbot, and then Sarah Woodham Johnson.
Hello, members of the board. Thank you for hosting this open forum. I wanted to share some thoughts on the building plans for Herbert Hoover Elementary. I have 3 kids in school. Our youngest is in kindergarten, just about to learn how to read, and I appreciate all the efforts that teachers put in.
Mr. Petrov, if I can, I believe this is an agendized item.
Yes.
You're talking about, yeah, so what you need to do is come back when we get to that item, which shouldn't be too long.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's the first, actually, it's the first action item, so it won't be long at all. Thank you. All right, next up, Lisa Talbot, followed by Sarah Woodham Johnson, and then Zhaozhan Chen.
Hi, my name is Lisa Talbot. I have kids in first and second grade. We have two lovely teachers who are absolutely being as effective as they could be in this medium. However, as a parent and a clinical psychologist, I still strongly believe there's too much screen time for young kids among Zoom, Seesaw assignments on touchscreen, and apps like Lexia and Dreambox. Research on screen time for elementary age students suggests a long list of negative effects, like lower psychological well-being, reduced curiosity. And I recognize the immense inequity in that many children do not have caregivers who can be available during the day to support children with home learning. But for parents who would like to help with the learning themselves, can they request to have their child participate in much less of the screen time, such as for a maximum of 2 hours per day? Parents could submit documentation of the additional instructional time that they provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Sarah Woodham Johnson, followed by Zhaozhan Chen, followed by Wei Gao.
Hi, good evening. I want to piggyback on the comments about follow-up to the resolution to support Black families. And, you know, I know that we've talked about anti-racist training that various staff members have been participating in. When last I heard, I think it's somewhere on the order of about 75 teachers, maybe teachers and staff. And, you know, what would it take to make that mandatory for all teachers? Because I think to promote a safe environment for kids of color, given all the, you know, all the anecdotes of experiences that our children have in our classrooms and on sites, I think this ought to be a priority. And I want to find out also too that that we get on, you know, we sort of get community engagement formalized and a process for doing that so that you can get the feedback and take action this school year.
Thank you. All right, next up is, I'm guessing Ms. Chen, followed by Wei Gao, followed by, we're gonna try Adrienne Germain again.
Hello, my name is Christina Chen, and I graduated Pali in 2013, and I am also part of the alumni group committed to holding the school board and district accountable for its promises to implement anti-racist practices. As an Asian American at Pali, I was taught that racism was a thing of the past. I was also in the highest lane for all of my classes and never thought twice about the fact that I did not have one single Black or brown friend or classmate because they just weren't in my classes. It wasn't until I went to college that I realized that racism is not over and is in fact still very much present and impacting the lives of my peers as well as myself. I was disappointed that my high school education in one of the top schools in the US did not prepare me for the conversations and perspectives I needed to understand an issue that is so important in American society today. As a current medical student and mental health advocate, I want to emphasize that racism is a public and mental health issue, and that discrimination and racial trauma experienced inside the classroom contributes to mental health problems that impact students' ability to learn.
Okay, sorry to cut you off, and please email your comments if you like to board@pausd.org. Next up is Wei Gao, followed by, we'll try Adrienne Germain again, and then Tremaine Kirkman.
Dear committee members, good evening. My name is Phoenix Gao, and I'm a third grade student at Hoover Elementary School. Our school's classrooms are too old and need to be rebuilt. As you know, the classrooms at Hoover have been used for a very long time. As a matter of fact, Hoover is probably the school which has the oldest classrooms in Palo Alto. It's not fair. We deserve better classrooms and better school. I also personally think new rooms are essential to keeping students safe, and we feel more joyful and proud in our newer classrooms. Please let Hoover build new classrooms ASAP. Thank you.
Outstanding, thank you. Okay, Adrienne Germain, followed by Tremaine Kirkman, followed by Jason Miller.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Germain. I'm the PTA Council VP of Outreach. While the COVID pandemic pulls much of our attention to immediate needs, PTA Council would like to see the same sense of urgency placed on structural changes that address racism. The PTA Council's June 9th letter urged the district to create space for uncomfortable conversations on a regular basis at school sites and the district level. Some questions we are eager to understand. The district provided training on dismantling white supremacy culture. What was the level of participation from the executive cabinet to our teachers to our staff? For those who are reluctant to participate, who will have the courageous conversation to understand their hesitancy? Listening forums will play a vital role. Has the district engaged parent and student groups to listen and learn directly to Black and Brown families? PTA Council looks forward to a progress report on the board's stated commitment to actively holding themselves accountable to dismantling the problematic policies and practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, glad we got that back. Tremaine Kirkman, Jason Miller, and then the last speaker will be Dev Agarwal.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do.
Okay, awesome. Hi, my name is Trey, pilot class of 2012. And also I'm following up on the resolution to implement anti-racist policies across the district. During my time in PAUSD, I worked tirelessly with my peers, like Alexander, who spoke earlier, to combat the racial achievement gap in PAUSD, which is quite large. And at the time, we similarly got resolutions and overtures from the board, from the superintendent, from administrators and teachers that they wanted to help, but left the real work to student activists. And while we made some change, that doesn't really create a formula for lasting change, because students leave and they graduate. And the people that should actually be doing work are at the board level. So I would ask that, beyond just this resolution, that we see real and tangible action towards concretizing how we're going to make a difference in actually implementing anti-racist policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, perfect 1 minute. Jason Miller, and then the last speaker is Dev Agarwal.
The history teacher and football coach at Gunn High School. Recently, I've been lobbying the superintendent, as my job as a football coach, to push to allow more and more contact with players and facilities and such, but that's not why I'm here today. My classroom was the one that was bombed by hate groups in the social justice pathway program, ironically. I just wanted to chime in today to give my appreciation to the superintendent, Mr. Austin, for reaching out to me. Also to board member Jennifer Brienza for reaching out to me during class in a text message, but I do appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that our administrations at Gunn, as well as our equity administrator in the district, Ms. Conway, were all very supportive. And I just wanted to take my free time this evening after a hard day's work to thank them and thank the administration of PAUSD. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we have Dev Agarwal, and because we had another person drop off, we'll add Michelle Higgins, who will be the last speaker.
Mr. Collins, Dev Agarwal is not going to work.
Okay, all the more reason to add Ms. Higgins then. Sorry, Mr. Agarwal.
Can you hear me?
We do.
Okay, hi. At this first school board meeting of the new school year, we find ourselves in the middle of a public health crisis that is hitting our Black, Latino, and Pacific Islander communities hardest on multiple fronts. As the Black Lives Matter movement has made clear, we face another related and ongoing public health crisis, racism. With this in mind, I applaud the resolution that was passed at the end of the last school year denouncing racism and urge that we now move to action. I'm pleased to see many teachers have taken up the anti-racism training offered by the district. I believe we need to see adoption across the board of anti-racist education for all PAUSD students, potentially working with organisations like Facing History and Teaching Tolerance. Additionally, we need to audit our curriculums, in particular our social studies and history curriculums, to ensure that our materials reflect historical truths rather than mythology. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all those. That was a rich set of open comments, and I appreciate that. And Dr. Austin, do you have something that you wanted to, I think you wanted to comment on something at the end of this?
I'm sorry, my video's got a little delay. Yeah, I do. And first of all, I want to apologize. I had notes on my screen, and I skipped right over one of them that was very important. There were some references to signs that have been in town and on our campuses. And I'm actually looking at a picture of it now, so I won't read the whole sign, but it does refer to COVID-19 as the Wuhan virus. And we don't need an official board proclamation. I want to tell you, we absolutely condemn those signs, and any sign that shows up on our sites will be immediately removed. There's no place for it. There's no benefit. We see the signs as racist, and we will not have those on our campuses in any way. So wanted to make sure that that was clear, and I apologize. It was in my notes before, and I just read over a section, but we're 100% on board with those signs not being on our sites. We have heard somewhere in the community, and we certainly do not have the ability to monitor the entire community, but anything on our sites will be gone instantly.
Thank you. Okay. Next up on our agenda is item 4, which is the approval of the consent calendar. These items are considered routine and will be approved in one action without discussion. If a member of the public wishes to comment on a consent item, or if a board member would like to pull an item from consent, we'll consider it immediately under action items. And oh, good. The hand that was up went down. Good. So not wanting to speak to consent. So is there a motion on the consent calendar?
I move to adopt the consent calendar. Sorry, I think I interrupted Mr. Durop.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Dauber moves and Mr. Durop seconds. Any additional comments or items? I do see a hand up, so let me just see if this regards to the, with respect to the consent calendar.
Hi, I'm so sorry. The comment that Mr. Austin just made explaining about signs, I have no idea what he's talking about. Could you quickly just explain what that's about?
Actually, we may be able to come back to it, but we're on to the next item now. So we're going to have to complete that item and perhaps come back to it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any items that anybody wants to pull, any amendments to that proposal? Seeing none, we will now take the vote, starting with our student preferential vote.
Hey, Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Etla.
Aye.
Ms. DiBrienza.
Aye.
Mr. Dauber.
Aye.
Mr. Dorop. Mr. Collins.
And I also vote aye. And just briefly to address Ms. Trainer's question, I mean, there were signs posted in a couple places, the reports I saw, that referred to the Wuhan virus and something to do with opening of schools. They had appeared at a couple of schools that I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. They were pulled down immediately, almost immediately, I think. And then they reappeared earlier this week at a couple of non-school sites, and I believe were quickly removed. That's basically all I know. Dr. Austin, do you know anything else?
Nope, you captured it.
Okay, so that's what we know about the signs. Okay, moving on from the consent calendar. Next is action items, and the first action item, and it sounds like we'll have some speakers on this, is to reject all bids for the construction of the Hoover Elementary School project. So if you're interested in speaking on Hoover, and particularly if you're a charming young student like the one who spoke during open forum, we encourage you to raise your hand now, or if you're dialed in by phone, you can press *9. The staff will present its report on this and recommendation, then we'll go to public comment, and then we'll do board member questions and comments and potentially a vote. Dr. Austin.
I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Golden for a very brief explanation, and then we'll move on.
You're on mute, Dr. Golden.
Now I'm not mute. So this project was bid. The bids were opened on April 7th. The amount of the bids came in significantly over budget, but This isn't the reason why this recommendation is being made, because again, that budget was not recent, and there are funds in reserve actually to fund this project should the district decide to move forward. However, there are good reasons for not doing that. One reason is, well, this pandemic, this very unpredictable pandemic. We know that there have been notions that the pandemic was under control, then it wasn't under control. And in particular, the pandemic has had a really profound effect on the construction industry. It's had a profound impact on residential occupancy in all up and down the Bay Area. And we really don't believe it's wise to make a 3.5-year commitment at this price. We believe that there are a lot of contractors who will be interested in bidding this project when we decide to do so. The second variable is not only the lack of predictability of the construction industry, but the lack of predictability of enrollment in Palo Alto Unified School District. We know that the projection prior to the pandemic was a reduction of about 200 students a year. And so our district is declining in enrollment. Now there's been a major downward spike in enrollment in the district. And so there is a serious question about the need for facilities in the future in the school district. And therefore, we're making this recommendation not to kill this project, but to pause it and to examine it and to contemplate bidding it at some time in the future when the future is more predictable.
And Dr. Olden, just to clarify, as we always do, this has been reviewed by the property committee?
This has been, yes, this has been discussed by the property committee, and they may want to speak to this matter as well.
Okay, well, their turn will come shortly. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Darrell.
Mr. Collins, might I speak before public comment on this briefly, just to give you the opine on what the property committee discussed?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Just to emphasize Dr. Golden's last point, that the property committee discussed the cost of these bids and the uncertain market right now. And as Dr. Golden said, this is the recommendation to reject bids is not a recommendation to do anything else but to reject the bids. And perhaps there is going to be a time when the market is different, at which point we will again seek bids. So the property committee discussed this as very much of a financial or fiscal discussion pertaining to the market as it stands right now, and the potential for lower cost bids in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Brianza, did you want to add to that at all, as long as we're taking property committee?
Just echo what Mr. Durop said.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll turn now to public comment on this item only on Hoover. And so if you're interested in speaking on this item, you can press raise hand in Zoom or press *9 if you're dialed in by phone. And we're kind of close to a cutoff, so I'll wait just a beat. Yep, we're above 15. So we'll be 1.5 minutes on the timer. And the first up will be Ellie, followed by Muron Zhang, followed by Olga Petrova. Ellie, go ahead.
Hello. Hi. Sorry, Ellie is actually my daughter's name. So my name's Emily Chen. I'm a parent of second grader at Hoover. And apparently Ellie is my daughter has been using my account. I have been a Palo Alto resident since 2009. So I'm here to speak because why postpone the renovation when it is actually the best timing to do construction? I have heard what you said, but still, this is the best timing to do the construction. I understand that there might be some other issues with the financial conditions right now. However, it is actually costing more money to stop and then redo it again because the constructions already has been gone for a year. So I don't know if you ever step into our school buildings before, but our 5th grade buildings are in really old portable style classrooms. Their lighting is very dark, hurts their vision very much. And we definitely need more sinks outside of the small toilets for students to wash hands normally to prevent diseases like COVID-19. So if we return to the classroom like now is the current facility, it's actually not going to help the student, but actually make the situation worse. The enrollment number actually can be related to the construction. If we can have a newer equipment in classrooms, more parents will love to consider Hoover more. It is a chicken and egg consequences. And how about the parents who pay the taxes and donate in the past few years, only to find that the construction will be canceled or paused or delayed, and the more money will be thrown into the trash bin? Because it's during the pandemic, the renovation is needed. I hope the term equality can also apply.
I'm sorry for switching off. If you have additional comments that you want to send, you can send them to board@pausd.org. All right, next up, Maron Zhang, followed by Olga Petrova, followed by Jagdish Pamnani.
Hello, my name is Maron and I'm a 2020 Hoover graduate. Hoover is an amazing place that
Maron, are
shouldn't
you
be.
there?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear me?
We can. Why don't we restart your timer, Maron? Since
Okay.
we got off to.
Okay.
We can. We're going to restart your timer. Okay, go ahead. Start from the beginning.
Okay. Hello, my name is Maron and I'm a 2020 Hoover graduate. Hoover is an amazing place that shouldn't be closing. The renovation project that has been thought about for quite a long time now, and they have already started changing things at Hoover. I was and still am very excited to see the new Hoover with more space and new classrooms. My brother is a kindergartner at Hoover, and he, like every other child, deserves a new and improved Hoover, one that will help him become a more knowledgeable, polite, and better person. Even though Hoover is a choice school, most of the classrooms are full every year. This is because Hoover is a truly amazing school. I don't understand why all the other schools, Ohlone, Briones, or Fairmeadow, all have a somewhat bigger campus than Hoover. Hoover is the only school that doesn't have a music room. All the hopes were up when we heard that Hoover was going to be renovated, and they are still up. Please reconsider your choice and let kids continue hoping for Hoover. Thank you.
Thank you. Olga Petrova, followed by Jagdish Pamnani, followed by one named Nira.
Hello, I'm Olga. I'm a parent of 3 kids from Hoover, and I have something to comment on the construction. So Hoover construction is well underway, and the teachers vacated the classrooms a year ago, and communications already in place, and portables are installed, which made the sports field smaller. We made sacrifice to bring long-awaited renovations, and this is going to be the first renovation of the school site. So the school campus is very old. When the children are not using campus, this is prime time for construction. And bond was already approved, and the money was set aside for this project. And at the same time, I see that the same renovations are being approved for El Carmelo School. They also making MP room and similar constructions. And the similar construction is in progress in Edison Elementary, but not in Hoover. And I see the board decision to halt construction at Hoover as a step to disintegrate high achieving choice school. And I'm a parent who stands for excellent education for everyone, and Hoover provides such education. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like some of the names have changed, so I'll make sure I call them. I'll just call them in the order I see them here. First, Ira Pamnani, then Alexander Petrov, and then one named Sarah. Are we having trouble there with Ira?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Now we do.
Oh.
Now we do, yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ira Pabnani, and I'm a 4th grader at Hoover Elementary. The passage of the original bond measure for the renovations at Hoover is something we care very deeply about and has enormous ramifications for our students. First of all, safety. Currently, our buildings are not earthquake proof. Also, we do not have safe drinking water, and we want to keep our students safe from exposure to lead-based paint and possibly asbestos in the pipes. Hoover is a choice school, but historically 80% of our population is neighborhood kids. A few years ago, trends showed declining enrollment district-wide, but not in South Palo Alto, where Hoover is situated. This was one of the deciding factors when we originally got approval for Hoover to progress into the design of this new school. I also want to add that COVID is temporary and we will return to the classrooms. So I urge you to take advantage of this time and speed up construction and get ahead while kids are on campus. Thank you.
Thank you, and my apologies for mispronouncing your first name. Okay, Alexander Petrov, followed by Sarah, and then Vasant Petlor.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for speaking out of term. I wasn't quite sure on the schedule.
Not a problem at all.
Yep. So I, like other parents who speak, I have kids in Hoover, and I appreciate a lot of the work that teachers do and staff and everything that's happening. But the school is old. There are things that should be done differently with the access to clear water, with a better MP room, with library, with the removal of the temporary housing, temporary classrooms. But the thing is that the two reasons that were stated for this rejection are first on the relevance of those proposals, and the second one on the uncertainty over the enrollment profile over the coming years. And I don't think that either reason is serious enough. If it is about money, then we can follow the Palo Verde footprints, and they are like making this similar at scale project of MP renovation, and we should be on the same timeline. We should not just postpone it indefinitely. And for the second one, as a choice school, it has a lottery, it has a wait list, and this wait list and this lottery are not going to shrink all the way to zero. We are going to still have all those kids, and they deserve better facilities. They deserve this drinking water. They deserve more restrooms and better, larger MP room. That's what I had to say.
Thank you, sir. Wendy Zhao, followed by Sarah, followed by Vasant Petlor.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
We hear you perfectly.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm a parent of two daughters at Hoover. I definitely see the intention for the pause of renovation, but I want to follow up asking, so do you have any plan or any timeline to update in the future board meetings to say how long the pause will be, and do you have any plan how to use the plan pause for certain considerations? And we cannot just pause forever, right? We don't have any timeline on that. I think that's something definitely bothers me. And secondly, do you have any consideration? What are the possible change are going to be implemented if you see the certain, for example, the market condition or the COVID condition goes? So definitely, I want to ask for a defined timeline on the pause and what are the considerations being planned right now. And secondly, and I want to comment on the enrollment. I want to say that we deserve to have a better picture in terms of if the decline of the enrollment is more on the district wise or is on a certain region of the Palo Alto school district. And even in the condition, even in the fact that if the overall enrollment is declining, but would a school site at a Hoover, would a school at a Hoover site still needed at this part of town? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sarah, followed by Vasant Petlor, followed by Joy Zhang.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm the parent of a kindergartner, so we're new to the Hoover community. So when we attended the open house event, I remember the principal mentioned there's already a plan for the renovation for Hoover Elementary School, and our students should expect a very good new elementary school. So we're very surprised to hear that the project actually has been postponed, and especially to find out there's a rat infestation, dangerous drinking water, paint chipping issues, and pipe issues for the young kids. So we're very concerned. We do want the school board to reconsider this issue. And the second question is for the timeline. I think the other parents mentioned that as well. I think like I understand that the situation changed, but I think compared with the money, I think the students' health is more important. And then lastly, in terms of the reduction of the student enrollment, just take our personal experience. We waited like a half a year to get enrolled in Hoover, and we are not at the end of the waiting list. We are like in the middle of the waiting list. So I don't think this is any issue in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vasant Petler, followed by Joy Zhang, and then next will be Nira. Nira, I apologize for skipping over you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk here. I just wanted to, just to bring this to everybody. This school is in a very high demand. Personally, I see that, this is a lottery. There are more people they apply for this school than the available, number of available slots. And the second thing is, we don't know, why this project, school project is getting postponed again and again. And again, we have many reasons to postpone it. And the third thing I want to ask, each of the board member, do you have a willingness to support this school? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up will be Joy Zhang, followed by Nira, followed by Mema Raphael.
Hey, dear board members, as a parent of Hoover graduate and the current Hoover students, as a former educator, a taxpayer, and a voter, I'm really surprised and disappointed by the board's plan to pause the already started renovation project, which will make the project even more expensive if we wait. The community has been campaigning for these renovation projects for years with multiple fundraising campaigns. With all other schools already renovated and the renovation project already started at Hoover, this decision does not make any sense financially, let alone how much the decision will devastate the Hoover community, which has a large portion of new immigrant families. Single out Hoover again and again over the past decade. If this is the message that the board really want to send out, that there is no future for Hoover Elementary School, if so, I really want to hear what's the logic behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Nira, followed by Mema Raphael, followed by Kimberly Kwan.
Yes, thanks for this opportunity. I'm a resident homeowner in Palo Alto and my kids attend Hoover Elementary. The proposal to pause Hoover renovation just breaks my heart. I hear from many parents every year who want to attend the school and apply for the lottery. So enrollment, I don't see it as an issue. It's a thriving and well-loved community with excellent teachers. So now the agenda cites the effect of pandemic, one, and the cost as the two issues for seeking rejection or pause for the renovation. It also seeks at the same time approval for renovation of Palo Verde using a similar budget. So I ask you two questions. How does the pandemic affect the Hoover bid adversely, but not the Palo Verde bid? And second, how do you justify the cost of renovating Palo Verde when Hoover has been waiting for decades for this update? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next will be Mema Raphael, followed by Kimberly Kwan, followed by Eileen Kim.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a current Hoover parent. My name is Mema Raphael, and I've had a very long and wonderful relationship with Hoover Elementary School. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sorry.
Hoover. One is currently in 10th grade, one is in 8th, and now a current Hoover student in 2nd grade. A few years ago, a group of parents, including myself, staff, and community members, advocated for Hoover's renovations, since we've always been looked over and neglected. As a matter of fact, our funds were given to 2 other schools in the district on 2 separate occasions. It has happened to Hoover over and over again, where we are looked over and other schools are given preferential treatment above us. This time around, the community was elated knowing that our school, which has not been renovated in over 50 years, only thing that we have done at Hoover is change doorknobs. Hoover has not been renovated in over 50 years, would get a much needed renovation. It's heartbreaking that the renovation has been scrapped. This renovation has already started and lots of changes have been made. This dilapidated structure needs attention to help bring it up to code, especially during this period when it's empty. I understand that the district is facing serious fiscal challenges and the funds needed to have the district operate effectively. Since bond funds were slated for Hoover, why can't there be some form of renovation to bring it up to code? Hoover is up to capacity. We have over 400 students enrolled with long wait lists annually. Please, please renovate Hoover Elementary School.
Thank you. Kimberly Kwan, followed by Eileen Kim, followed by phone caller, last three digits, 316.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Kwan and I teach fifth grade at Hoover. I spoke to you earlier this year in May when this agenda item was postponed. I had asked you to let the community know what the action plan would be to continue our in-progress renovations at Hoover. I am deeply disappointed to learn that you intend to postpone renovations for Hoover again. I don't know if you know that this is the third time renovations have been put on hold, and this is the 10th year of waiting. I know it's been 10 years because I've been at Hoover all this time, and I've watched and participated in renovation planning under 3 different principles. I implore you to create a confirmed timeline for the community addressing when renovations for Hoover will resume. I believe you know our great and immediate need. We have literally waited a decade and watched other schools complete their renovations. No one predicted this pandemic, but we can't wait any longer. We're literally mid-construction, and when we go back in person, we will not be able to function safely if things stay as they are. Please give us a confirmed timeframe for when renovations will resume for us. Please show us your commitment to giving our students the school site that they need and as soon as possible. Thank you.
Eileen Kim, phone caller ending, number ending 316, and then Lisa Mawu.
Hello, my name is Noah Siva and I'm a 5th grader at Hoover. I don't think construction at Hoover should be stopped. Hoover is a special choice school with amazing teachers and a great team teaching approach. It's what makes Hoover very special. I've been at Hoover since 2nd grade and I absolutely love it here. Please do not stop the renovations at Hoover. Now my mother will speak. Please hold on 1 second.
Palo Alto is claiming to reject the bids due to declining enrollment. However, this sounds like it may be a permanent pause to Hoover's construction. Will PAUSD also agree to reject all the bids to other elementary renovations due to declining enrollment? Why is it that Hoover is being singled out for halting renovations due to declining enrollment? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I also see on the agenda approval for Palo Verde's renovation for their multipurpose room. At the time Hoover renovations were rejected years ago, I want to remind you that there were numerous safety and health issues, from rat infestations in the MP room to dangerous drinking water, where at one point students were not allowed to refill their water bottles, paint chipping throughout the facility leading to questions about lead-based paint, and certain pipes with asbestos. This is a liability issue for Palo Alto and safety and wellness issue for students attending Hoover Elementary. Please reconsider the pause on the bids and please commit to finishing off the renovations at Hoover. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is phone caller with the number ending 316, and then Lisa Mawu, and then Aparna Chandra. Phone caller starting 917. Still there? All right, let's try coming back to that one. How about Lisa Mawu and Aparna Chandra? And then looks like Jagdish Pamnani is back again.
Good evening, distinguished members of the board. This is actually the husband of Lisa Ma, Dr. Eric Wu. I am a orthodontist in the Palo Alto community, but I would also like to share that I am a Hoover alumni from 1985. So not only am I a business owner in the Palo Alto community, but I'm also a product of the best public school system in the entire United States, which is the Palo Alto Unified School District. And I have to say that the foundations of my education and my professional career were laid down during my years at Herbert C. Hoover Elementary. I've seen the campus grow and develop from its early years at the Middlefield campus to the Barron Park campus and to its current location on Charleston. I implore the distinguished board members to reconsider their decision to pause the construction project and to allow it to continue so that my two children at Hoover can continue to receive the opportunity and the basic academic skill set that I received as a child. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, Aparna Chandra, followed by Jagdish Pamnani, and then we'll try the phone caller starting with 917 again.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm Aparna, and my daughter has been a Hoover student since kindergarten, and now she's in 5th grade, about to graduate next year. The situation is very uncertain. She may not go to campus the whole school year, but I really want our school to be built for many reasons. We have had this awesome experience through the last many years, and the construction is already halfway through. I mean, it's already started. It would really not make sense to stop it. It just is heartbreaking to think that things will go back to where they were after all the time and energy that has been invested. And students who are going to be studying in that school after we leave, everybody deserves that school. And that's all I have to say. Please do not stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, Jagdish Pamnani, and then we'll try the phone caller, starting with area code 917. And then the last speaker will be Emily Lynn. Jagdish, are you there? All right, looks like we don't have any luck with Jagdish. Let's try the phone caller starting with 917, and then Emily Lynn.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, finally. Oh my God. Thank you. My name is Patricia, and so I just want to say, I wanted to say something about the legal contracts, and I couldn't get through, and it sounds like you just skipped through them, so I don't want to jump into a new subject, but when can I make my comment about that?
I'm sorry, which contracts did you want to comment on?
The legal contracts.
With the district and who?
The lawyers for
contracts with our lawyers. I
couldn't get through.
I apologize. That item's already been dealt with.
I know I couldn't get through, and I was hitting #9, but nothing was happening. Right?
Yeah, I apologize. I think because the item's been done, we won't be able to go back and take comment on it.
Even if they are act in bad faith and mischaracterize and are spending $300,000 to keep my son out of school, and they are continuing to run up more billable hours.
You know what I'd urge you to do, and I apologize that you weren't able to
to send you an email, and I've done that, and you guys just send more lawyers after me.
Okay. Or you can come back at our next meeting and speak at open forum. And
okay. And I did that last time, and you guys promised to have someone call me, but you haven't. It's been probably 9 months.
Okay. Well, why don't you send an email?
And probably $75,000 more from your lawyers.
Since we have to move on, why don't you email me personally at tcollins@pausd.org, and I will follow up with staff and make sure that a call is made. Okay. Okay. Moving on. The last speaker on this will be Emily. Oh, we're gonna try. Let's do Emily Lynn, and we'll try Jagdish Pamnani one more time.
Hi, my name is Emily Lynn. I'm a recent Hoover graduate, and my sister Allison is still a 4th grader there. This construction is something that everyone has been looking forward to for a long time. The Hoover buildings are over 5 times my age, some of our classrooms are currently in trailers, and our playground is only half the size it used to be. After getting 400 students excited, you should not have them wait forever, especially when we could all use some good news. Now is actually the best time to do construction. My memories of Hoover are already great, but I want my sisters to be even better. Please tell us that you will finish this project as soon as conditions allow. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll try Jagdish Pamnani one more time. Jagdish, are you there? Okay, sounds like that one's not going to work out. And I apologize to, there are a few other people with hands raised, but per our rule, when we, at the end of the first speaker, we set the amount of time based on the number of people then in the queue. And when we close the speaker queue then, so apologize that we weren't able to hear from you tonight. Okay, moving on to board member questions and comments. Are there any board members who want to speak to this item?
Yeah, how do I?
Student board members, it's fine to raise your hand. I'm going to come to you after I do the board members, and then we'll come to student board members. Mr. Dauber, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I do want to speak. I appreciate the comments of the parents and students at Hoover. They make sense to me. On the other hand, I think that the staff and the members on the property committee are making a compelling case in a couple of ways. One is that it would be, long-term, I think, detrimental to the interests of all of our students to pay more for renovations than we need to. Those dollars can be used for educational purposes elsewhere, air conditioning, other renovations at potentially Hoover and at other schools. So I think that while I understand the desire to proceed as currently planned, I think that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of the district to make sure that we're spending money as wisely as we can. And I think the second point is that and I know that I didn't hear from Mr. Durop and Mr. Brands on this point, but I think the second point is also an important point, which is that we need to make sure that these funds are expended in a way that reflects our actual circumstances. And if we are seeing an enrollment decline in the district, I think we need to take a look at that in terms of our needs and make sure that we are allocating our funds as wisely as possible. I think one of the reasons that we have been successful at in our bond campaigns, and the voters of the district are willing to maintain their financial commitment to the schools, is that they see that those funds are used wisely. And I think in this case, using those funds wisely means rejecting these bids and looking for an opportunity to do the same work for less, or also to evaluate our total spending program to make sure that we're spending money in ways that reflect our actual circumstances. So I do intend to support the motion.
Okay, anything else from board members before we turn to student board members? Oh, Mr. Drop, I see your hand up now.
Thank you. Dr. Golton, can I ask a quick question, or even Ms. Chow, whichever one is better suited to answer? But it was my recollection that the property committee discussed the specifics of how much over budget these bids came in. What was that number?
That number was approximately $6 million.
Okay. So, I mean, from just to add my comments to Mr. Daubers, that's a lot of money for us to be over budget, and we do have a fiduciary responsibility to use our bond money wisely to serve our students. And I don't really think we're serving our students in the best way we can if we have bids coming in $6 million over budget when we can wait until some of the uncertainty of the current economic times resolves itself and see if we can get a better deal and utilize that money in a more efficient, responsible way for our students. So I will also be voting in favor.
If I may, let me add to my response. Since April,
briefly, please, Dr. Gold.
I will. The construction market has dramatically changed. Right now, you see buildings in San Jose, in San Francisco, in all up and down the peninsula where nobody is coming to work. they're in fact not only staying home now, but have been told that they can stay home indefinitely or for a year or for a year and a half and so on. And so the whole profile of the construction market is changing. It is not predictable, but it's very, very different than it was 7 months ago.
Thank you. Okay. I think the board member hands are up from before, so I'll turn to student board members and ask for their comments. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, so first of all, just want to commend Wei, Marone, Noah, and Emily for speaking out. I know I would never have that courage if I was your age. But I do want to mention that I'm also a Hoover alum, class of 2014. And I do echo some of the concerns that the community members and students have brought up. You know, Hoover it's a wonderful school, but some of the facilities are kind of declining in quality. And if the mentions of issues of safety and water quality and all these other things like a rat infestation are true, I think these are high priorities that we should be addressing. And I know that as a student from Gunn, when we had construction in the earlier years when I was a freshman, that it was a huge detriment to kind of the quality of campus life and learning as well. And just driving past Hoover every so often, I see that there are temporary facilities set up. So I just have a question, which is if the construction is delayed, what is going to happen to the interim infrastructure that has been set up? Is it going to remain there, or is it going to have to be kind of taken down and then put up later?
Yes, it is going to remain there.
Okay. I do also want to echo Ms. Kwan's comment, who was my 5th grade teacher. So shout out there. Is there going to be a guarantee that the project is going to be resumed once conditions have changed?
Dr. Austin, do you want to speak to that?
I think it'd be premature to make any statement on that. I wouldn't want people to read in between the lines on that. There is no recommendation for anything at this point other than to reject the bids tonight.
Okay. In that case, is there an estimated timeline for when such a project could be voted upon again?
Dr. Austin?
Wow. It's a good question. I think a different way of framing that question, Thomas, would be what would be a reasonable minimum amount of time before it would come back. And what I've heard, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on this, is it would be a minimum of 6 months.
Okay. I don't have any more comments.
Thank you. Seeing no more hands up, I'll just comment briefly. I think, you know, this is a volatile time, so it's not surprising to see construction projects kind of be rejudged. As those of us, and several people on the board, I'm sure many in the community, remember the last go around with the bond where we had similar machinations. And I remember, you know, 3-2 votes on whether to proceed with the Duveneck project. And then maybe some buyer's remorse after we did proceed with it, and enrollment patterns changed very quickly thereafter. So the construction environment changes, the enrollment environment changes. In this case, the public health environment changes. I do know, speaking to Dr. Golton and some other people on our construction staff, we've seen a significant increase in the number of people, number of contractors who are asking for pre-qualification on future projects, which is usually a very strong leading indicator that the commercial building market is cratering. And so those people not finding any work there come looking to the school market and the government market for potential work. We saw this happen in 2009, 2010, during the Great Recession when we were starting the 2008 bond. And it worked tremendously to the district's benefit, where I would say we saved easily tens of millions of dollars on construction prices because we hit the market at the right time. So I think in this case, I can certainly see the prudence in saying the bids that we gathered just a few short months ago may not be comparable to the bids we'll gather a few months from now. And there are sort of indicators that that's likely to be the case. So I also will be supporting the property committee and staff's recommendation on this. Okay, seeing no more comment, is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Collins, I believe we have a need for a 2-meeting rule.
I've out-researched you on that, Dr. Austin, because this actually qualifies as one of the exceptions to the 2-meeting rule because it's an announcement of a bid, basically, which is actually a listed exception to the 2-meeting rule. So I think we are fine to vote in this as is.
Good, thank you.
I'll move to reject all bids.
Is there a second?
For the construction.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Darup, seconded by Mr. Dauber. Dr. Austin, can you take the roll?
Yeah. Preferential votes, Ms. Alta,
Nay.
Mr. Lee,
Nay.
Ms. DiBrienza,
Aye.
Mr. Dauber,
Aye.
Mr. Darup,
Can you repeat that, Mr. Darup? I think you got dropped.
Aye.
Thank you. And I also vote aye. So the vote is 4-0 for the board members and 1-1 with the student board preferential vote, with Mr. Lee voting nay and Ms. Alta voting aye. Okay, so that item is approved and we can move on to our next item. And Dr. Austin, are we treating B and C as a single item, or are we going to do them as two separate items?
I believe since this is the second time you've seen him, that we can do that as one item combined. And I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Hendricks just for a very quick comment. And I think
Ms. Alta, are you going to drop off? Is that the wave?
No, I think you misheard me because I voted nay on that one.
Oh, I apologize. I did mishear you, and thank you for correcting. Okay, so let's make sure that we got the vote right. So the board member vote was 4-0, and the student member vote was 0 aye and 2 nay. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so we'll do the items B and C now, and so that means any members in the audience who want to speak on the tentative agreements with PAEA or CSEA, now is the time to raise your hand for either of those items, and we'll turn to community comment after the staff report.
Ms. Hendricks.
Thank you. Our next two items are action items. They are tentative agreements with our Palo Alto Educators Association and with CSEA Unit number 301. I do believe I would like to take them separately with your permission. They do require a vote. So I would recommend starting with item B, which is the tentative agreements with PAEA. You'll see one related to elementary and one related to secondary school schedules in a COVID-19 environment. These were first brought to you on August 11th for discussion, and they have been fully sunshine and posted on our negotiations update page as well. So after discussion, I will be seeking approval on these two tentative agreements first.
Okay, is there any presentation to do with it, or is that the entire staff presentation?
That is it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Answer any questions.
Okay, and let me, unless you object, Ms. Hendricks or Dr. Austin, what I'd suggest is that we'll see if we can get a motion on the two items together and just, we can vote them both at the same time. If there is no such motion or somebody suggests that we shouldn't do it that way, we can decouple them and vote on them separately. Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll turn to public comment, and I see, so anybody else who wants to speak to these MOUs, please raise your hand. Okay, and I see a modest number, so we'll be 3 minutes each. And the first up is Tianming Xiao, followed by Catherine N. Jordan, followed by Terry Baldwin. Tianming, are you there?
Yeah, so wait, so I'm giving my say?
Yes, this is your time to speak on the tentative agreements.
Oh, okay, so I'm a 7th grader. I'm a former Hoover student, And during my time in Hoover, 4th and 5th grade, we lived, not lived, our classes were held in portables. And in 5th grade, there were skunks living under our 5th grade classroom, and then the bathrooms were on the other side of the school. And in 4th grade, there were rats living under the classroom while our teacher was pregnant, and I think that was a pretty serious matter. And even though circumstances have changed, I still think this project is really important, at least a promise to start at an absolute date. And I don't think a select student school in Palo Alto should treat their students with these conditions. So thank you for listening to what I've said.
Thank you. Appreciate your speaking up. All right, Catherine Jordan, then Terry Baldwin, and then Vadhya Vash.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. You can hear me?
We do.
Great. I'd like to urge the board members to vote no on the proposed PAEA Teachers Union agreement on tonight's agenda. Agreeing to the teachers union's terms that restrict and preclude students' access to in-person instruction, granting certain not before time periods when in-person instruction will not take place, unrelated to whether Santa Clara County has cleared the county watch list, met required thresholds for the specified 14 consecutive days, or whether Palo Alto Unified has met the safety precautions laid out by the county's public health officer and state public health officer, extends distance learning unnecessarily, sacrificing student learning, and sacrifices student interests for adult special interests, those of the teachers union. Students who are most in need of in-person instruction, special education students, struggling students, those who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, as Palo Alto Unified has said, are the ones who deserve consideration rather than an adult special interest. Let me repeat what Dr. Austin has said. Austin said the quality of a student's education would be reduced if the district operated entirely online next fall. Let me repeat and let you know about the CASP results for Palo Alto Unified for socioeconomically disadvantaged students. 43% are proficient in English language. Only 41% are proficient in math. For Pacific Islanders, only 35% are proficient in English language. Only 33% are proficient in math. For African Americans at Palo Alto Unified, only 34% are proficient in English. 38% are proficient in math, according to the CASP results. For Latinos, 51% are deemed proficient in English language, 48% proficient in math. For students with disabilities, 40% are proficient in English language, 40% proficient in math. As you can see, these students are greatly in need of instruction. And according to Dr. Austin, Governor Newsom, Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, who said, children need in-person instruction, she said, adding that remote instruction is no substitute for it. Santa Clara County Superintendent of Schools, Mary Ann Dewan, we know that distance learning is not an equal substitute for in-person education. In-person instruction is essential. Please reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Next is Terry Baldwin, who is the PAEA president, then Vaibhav Vesh, then Meb Steiner, who is the CSEA president, and then Linda Hennigan.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to thank the district and of course all the teachers who put in a lot of time this summer, especially the executive board and negotiations team to come up with these memorandums of understandings. We appreciate the district taking the teachers' health concerns of not only themselves, but their students and the community seriously. And if putting the health and safety of human beings above coming back in person is a special interest, then yes, it is a special interest of the Palo Alto Educators Association. to prioritize health and safety. We're in a pandemic. I don't know what people are thinking, going out without masks, congregating like nothing's happening, but that is making it so we can't come back in person. Not the fact that teachers don't want to, they want to, but they want to be safe and they want to keep their students safe. So thank you to the board and the district and everyone involved for coming to an agreement on these MOUs. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Viva Vash, next Meb Steiner, and then the last speaker will be Linda Hennigan.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We do.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. This continues a fervent plea to provide for meaningful learning opportunities for children with disabilities, like my son, for whom distance learning does not work, or maybe it only works to increase the distance between my child and his learning. Your child is behind is a phrase parents of disabled children hear routinely. Our children may be behind, but at least we are the #1 district in California. And there isn't a more heroic example of that than that of the teachers and aides who stepped up and provided in-person instruction to our most vulnerable disabled secondary students over the summer. When the going was tough, they stepped up and did their best to serve our students. Today, the board is being asked to approve tentative agreements with the union that appear to preclude any such thing, even while the health and safety experts have approved in-person instructions for the kids who need it. I'm no expert on MOUs, but the first line of this agreement states that a shared interest is to meet the diverse educational needs of all students. The rest of the agreement has no mention, plan, or even acknowledgement of any student whose needs cannot be met by distance learning. The agreement repeatedly reminds the district of constraints imposed by the governor and the health authorities and our obligations that close schools and our obligations to abide by them. I'm fully supportive of that. But when the same governor and the same health authorities encourage and approve limited in-person instruction for children who cannot even learn otherwise, why are the unions suddenly reluctant to believe their guidance? The agreements, as far as I can read them, appear to argue for a one-size-fits all, to pretend that all students from preschool to high school seniors must all return together or not at all, to imply that all students can access education equally through distance learning is a slap on the face of disabled students. It doesn't just remind us that they're behind. We're used to hearing that. But by explicitly ignoring them, it says that they don't matter. 20 minutes south of our Smallland School District applied for a waiver to provide limited in-person instruction to address the equity gap created for disabled students, for children of staff, and for children of essential workers. Last week, they received their approval. For our district, it is not too late. We are not that far behind. Please refrain from approving any agreements today that unreasonably restrict our ability to serve our students, even when the health authorities have approved it. What makes PAUSD #1 is keeping the interests of all students above everything else and stepping up with creative approaches, be it in-home instruction, outdoor, partial cohorts, or whatever.
Sorry for the sorry for the cutoff, and you can email comments as always. Meb Steiner, followed by Linda Hennigan.
Good evening, Meb Steiner, president of CSEA. I too wish to start off by thanking our negotiations team and executive board who spent a lot of time over the summer on these MOUs, on the MOU for CSEA. And I want to thank Ms. Hendricks and the district's team as well. This MOU, I think, is an important document to guide us along with our collective bargaining agreement and the guidelines of local, state, and federal agencies, particularly around public health requirements and safety. I echo Ms. Baldwin's comment about prioritizing health and safety while recognizing that we have challenges as we're trying to meet all the diverse needs of our student population. But I want to express my appreciation and just focus on that The MOU will allow us to safely provide support and services to our students and school community. And we must prioritize health and safety. And I believe we can come up with very creative solutions and supports to meet the needs of all of our students. And it is a work in progress. I recognize the difficulties for our special ed students. I work as a special education aide in our Futures program. I do want to say that this first week and the start of the second week, we've had some very wonderful moments. We've certainly faced some challenges, but there is a great deal of support and passion and commitment to making it the best we can for all of our students. And we are committed to that. CSEA stands ready to do that. We have been working in person and remotely. We will continue to do so, and wish to do all we can to support our students and school community, making sure that we are all healthy and safe and providing the best education. I've shared once before that PAUSD does not stop at the bare minimum when it comes to education. And I think we should do everything in our power on the side of health and safety as well. I know that we will maximize our efforts on both those fronts. But once again, thank you to our teams. And I hope for the board's approval on the MOU tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, and last speaker, Linda Hennigan.
All right. Hello, this is Linda Hennigan. I'm a parent at Duveneck and Green of children in general education and in special education. And I'm calling to support the negotiated return date that PAEA has put forward. I don't see teachers as a special interest any more than I see the kids and the families of our district as a special interest. Our teachers are human beings, and people perhaps don't know how many of them have been evacuated due to fires. Many of our staff members can't afford to live inside Palo Alto. They live in counties all around the Bay Area. I personally know of 2 teachers at our school that have had to evacuate because of the fires. So to tell them that they're going to have 2 weeks notice to come back to work on a dime is just not human. So I urge the board to approve the MOUs as written. I think they serve the needs of teachers who are human beings, not a special interest, as well as families and children. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the speakers. And now we'll turn to board member questions and comments. If people want to raise their hands, we'll call on anybody who wants to speak. Not seeing any. Mr. Dauber, please go ahead.
Raising my virtual hand requires that I relearn this UI every time I want to do it. So sorry for the delay. I wanted to make a couple of comments and ask a couple of questions of staff. So my understanding of the MOUs is that they reflect some degree of agreement with our collective bargaining units, and I also want to thank the negotiators on all sides of this. I think they worked very hard. I am well aware of that. And, reached a lot of agreement, but they didn't reach total agreement, and there are some areas where we weren't able to reach a meeting of minds, and one of them was on this question that one of the speakers referred to as kind of one size fits all. And it was important to me, and I think it's reflected in the documents, that we not treat special education students, elementary school students, secondary school students, students in PAUSD plus, as a single unitary group, and that we reserve the ability to return to in-person instruction at different times for those different groups. Am I reading these documents and remembering that correctly? Maybe Ms. Hendricks.
I can start on that, Mr. Dauber, and you broke up just a little bit, but I think I caught enough. we had a specific carve out with PAEA that we just had more work to do with special education. So there's nothing in there that keeps us from working with special education. It means we've got some more work to do, and we already have something scheduled with PAEA. We just want to do it right. And, part of that will be, again, a little more reflection on the guiding documents that we just received. But overall, I would like to echo what the board has already said. Both associations, this was not easy work. This was hard work, and it's not 100% complete. There are still some things coming our direction, but overall, we feel pretty good about where we're at. I hope that answers your question. Again, you cut off through a little part of it, so I may have missed something towards the end.
Yeah, I apologize. I just turned off my video because it could be that I just don't have a good enough link. Yeah, that basically what I wanted to do was to reconfirm my understanding that the district has not agreed to treat all students in a kind of one size fits all, and that we have, I suppose I could say, either reserve the right or agreed to disagree on that question with our collective bargaining units. And so I think that characterizing this agreement as sort of the district knuckling under to demands from the unions mischaracterizes our relationship to our bargaining units. I think we have a lot of shared interests, and I think we have shared interests in students. And I think also just misstates the degree to which we've got agreement on some things, and we have not yet reached agreement on some other things, because we have some different opinions about what exactly, how exactly to approach the different issues in front of us. So I'm comfortable with this set of agreements. Like I said, I appreciate the efforts of our bargaining units, even if we have not yet, or even if we haven't reached full agreement.
Good.
Yeah, I can concur with that. And if I can just pop in, Mr. Dauber, I will agree that we did look at, or we spent a lot of time really in differentiating the needs between elementary and secondary students as well. And we also agreed that we need to meet back together to talk more about addressing the needs and priorities related to students in special education. So what you'll see below the signature lines in the tentative agreements are those areas that we're going to return to speak more about. But we did spend quite a bit of time speaking about the need to really look at how we're serving students who would be more school dependent.
And I just also want to remind everybody and commend Ms. Hendrickson, the other folks on all sides of the table, that the district and the unions and its unions are trying to use an interest-based bargaining model, really, which reflects the fact that we do have a lot of shared interests, particularly around students and education, even if not all of our interests are shared. So I appreciate that.
I do as well. I'd say the efforts of PAEA President Terry Baldwin and CSEA's Meb Steiner, PAEA's lead negotiator Mimi Park, really those efforts in very important and lengthy conversations were really appreciated. So I want to extend my thanks on that as well.
Thank you.
Other questions and comments? Mr. Lee, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Actually, I don't know if it's that quick, but like how much room for flexibility and change is there in the bell schedule? Because like I mentioned earlier, and I think Ashley mentioned during public comment, that the Monday schedule where we have 7 classes, 30 minutes each, has been kind of tiring for students. And I was wondering if like there's room for flexibility there.
Okay, looks like everyone's jumping on that one. So let me give it a shot. First of all, I think it's too early for any discussions about a course correction at this point. We've been in school 7 days, and parts of what the teachers have been doing just through observations and feedback has been just trying to get to know their students. So the screen time is probably a little heavier right now. But part of this entire process is that we're going to be surveying students and families, some of which will even begin this week. And if things start to show us that we need to make some modifications, it could come from the student, parent, or teacher feedback. Then we can go back and readdress it. But I'd say that will be a little bit down the road when I give it some time to settle in.
I can add to that, Mr. Lee, that the desire to look at what's in place, look at flexibility. Really, we're trying to balance right now with consistency and providing stable footing to get the school year off to a great start.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you. I do have one question. I think it's the same as Mr. Daubers, but I just want to put a fine point on it. If in fact the state allows us to bring back moderate and severe special education students, such as the one we heard about from one of the commenters, as soon as, say before the county is off the watch list. So say sometime during the month of September, that becomes a possibility. Is there anything in this tentative agreement that would prevent us from doing so?
I can take that. No. And what we've talked about is the return dates and assessment points of a whole scale return. And they are different. And we all want to acknowledge that it could be a little confusing because our elementary MOU looks a little different than the secondary because the conditions are different. But the basic question of, does the MOU keep us from working with special ed or doing some things very differently, is no, it does not. We just have some things we need to work through with our associations as partners.
Okay, because I think as we heard from some of the speakers and we've heard in the past, and I know you share, Dr. Austin, that's a very high priority for the district, and we're chomping at the bit and waiting for the state guidance. And I appreciate, just for the people who are listening from the special ed community, Dr. Austin emailed out the papers that he received this afternoon during the board meeting, so we can get a start looking at them. That's how urgent we feel about bringing special need students back to school. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll be ready to take action on this. Does this require, did we see this item before? Does this require, we did, right, at the last meeting?
Not on August 11th, correct.
That's right, okay. So seeing no further comment, is there a motion on this item? Or I'm sorry, these two items, if someone would like to make a motion on both.
I move that the board approve the tentative agreements with PAEA and CSEA as presented.
Is there a second? All right, moved by Mr. Darup. Moved by Mr. Dauber, seconded by Mr. Darup. Dr. Austin, can you take the vote?
Sure, starting with Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Atla.
Aye.
Ms. DiBrienza.
Aye.
Mr. Dauber.
Aye.
Darup.
Aye.
Mr. Collins.
I also vote aye, so that's approved unanimously. And I, like many others said, I really appreciate both of the negotiating team from the bargaining units and our own negotiating team, who I know worked tirelessly to bring this about. So thank you to everyone, and hopefully this will pay dividends for our students. Okay, moving on to discussion items. We have two construction-related items, items 6A and 6B. And it looks like they're reasonably different, so we'll take them separately. And there'll be no, just for the people in the community know, because these are discussion items, there'll be no action on these items. All the action that's going to be taken at this meeting has been taken, and we will just have discussion on the items going forward. All right, Dr. Austin.
I'm just going to turn these right over to Dr. Golton.
Good, thank you very much. First, the first item is a small item, the relatively small item. Every project has an inspector of record, and then also one or more specialty inspectors. Ninu & Moore is the specialty inspector for the Science Building Addition project, which actually is going very well. The change order allowance has been tapped minimally, and there'll be money to be returned. But the fact remains, This initial budget for this contractor was, and the contract was $89,308, which was less than that $100,000 threshold. But now it is going to go over, and our estimate is 142,000 as opposed to 89,000. Why is this happening? Well, the answer, the big answers are the changes to and delays to structural concrete and steel fabrication. That is, we don't simply take steel, and the contractor doesn't simply get to install steel girders, but rather the specialty inspector inspects those products beforehand. So we're requesting that the board approve this addendum for $53,000. And again, the reason is because this will take us over 100,000.
If there are any comments on it, now's the time to either raise your hand, and that goes for board members as well. Otherwise, I suggest we bring this back on consent, unless there's an objection. Okay, moving on to item B.
Item B. Item B is approval of the schematic design for the project at Palo Verde Elementary. The approval process is the board has previously approved the conceptual design. We're requesting you approve the schematic design. After that, the project will move on to design development and construction documents and be submitted to DSA. And then after that, it'll be bid. The stated estimate for the authorization to bid is November of 2021. That's aggressive. It easily could move into early 2022. So we won't be bidding this. Basically, we won't be bidding this project anytime soon. We have a very brief presentation on this schematic design. If it pleases the board, Tom Hodges is with me here, and he'll do that.
All right, I will share my screen.
And as fast as practical, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, we only have 8 slides tonight, Mr. Collins. So as Dr. Golden said, here's our schematic design for Palo Verde. I think we came back last March, presented the conceptual design. This is the site plan for what you saw in March, just so we could point out a few of the things that have been changed since then in working with the school. So here's our current site plan for the school. There is a little bit of a updated scope. The NPR and the admin pretty much unchanged. The renovation of the old MP is unchanged, and we still are adding a kinder classroom over here by this cluster. And then we have another learning center that this learning center will serve these primary grades. And then this learning center on the other side of campus will serve the upper grades. The one thing it has changed, a little bit of a cost saving move, was to relocate the kids club over to these portables from the small portables that are there. These are very old, and build a new classroom wing for the 5th grade here. What this does is it creates this classroom clustering, as you can see, you go around the campus. So we are saving a little bit of money. Our estimates come in well below the budget that we had a conceptual design. And it does, the campus is, I think, a little happier with maintaining this open space in the playfields. So I just have some floor plans. I won't go through these in detail, but here in the left with the yellow is the new multipurpose room with the stage. It has a servery that is directly adjacent to it. So kids will come in through these doors and then come out, or they can go directly into the NPR if it's a rainy day, and they can eat in tables that are set up there. We do have a one flex classroom in the bottom left-hand side, and that's really set up for music. So there's, a direct ramp that we can bring a piano into that stage area from the music room. The upper right, which is sort of pink on my screen at least, is the new admin wing. You can see where this is going to be the main entrance into a waiting area. front desk area. Then we have a parent liaison conference room, principal's office, nurse, and then some workroom space and a teacher's lounge over here. In the green, which you see is cut off a little bit, is just the resource center. We're repurposing a classroom into a resource center for the mild to moderate special ed kids. So here is the top plan is the renovation of the old MPR. So here's that learning center that I mentioned would be serving the upper grade levels. And then a flex room. This is a room that would be supporting art and science. So you can see we've got the 2 sinks plus a larger sink for washing and cleaning for that space. Down below you see is the newly built new kinder wing, or kinder classroom, I should say, and then that second learning center for the primary grades. And then here is just the very straightforward 5th grade classroom wing with 3 classrooms. These are basically replacing the 3 classrooms in the upper wing that are being cleared out to make room for the new admin wing and that new resource center. And then 2 new spaces since we last spoke. We did have a reading room that we needed to add for this campus, and then we placed another counselor office over in this part of the campus. And so have some views of what the buildings would look like from Lewis. These are both from Lewis. The architect is looking to basically provide some lower rise buildings to kind of fit in with not only the existing architecture of the classroom wings, but also the Eichler style homes that are in this area. And then my last slide is just at the top. This is what the view would be of the new admin wing and then the MP building. And then down here towards the bottom, this is on the left-hand side, this is that 5th grade classroom wing, and then the kinder and learning center there. And then that same building as you would look at it from the Rourke side of the building. And those are my slides, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. You can ask questions too if you like, Tom. Okay, not seeing any members of the community wanting to comment. Are there any? Oh, I spoke too soon. One popped up just as I was saying that. All right, we'll take community comment then. And so anyone who wants to comment should raise their hand now in Zoom, or if you're dialed in, press *9. And I'll wait just a moment and then we'll start. Here's another person. And it looks like we'll be able to give people 3 minutes each. And so let's start with Saurabh Vats and then followed by Eileen Kim.
Hi, it was good to see all these plans. There's a fair amount of construction being done for the kinder and the 5th grade. My question is that considering that it's there's so much uncertainty going on and there's so much concern about spending. I know this is not the bid point right now, but what is the rationale behind proceeding at this point with follower day date? And I would like to also know that what is the expected enrollment rate, and that is behind the numbers that you are, basing these proposals on. Is it expected to increase in the future? I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And perhaps that can get addressed when we get through the rest of public comment. Next, Eileen Kim, and the last speaker will be Ellie.
Hi, thank you. In terms of speaking about fiduciary duty and the speaker prior to me, I think given the reasons for the Herbert Hoover pause on the bids and rejecting all bids, if PAUSD is to stick to the same guidelines and expectations, a fiduciary duty to all the parents and all the students during this pandemic, wouldn't it be fair for all all the architectural and all the renovations to be paused. Or on the other hand, I heard that the bids for Palo Verde will go out November 2021 approximately. Would that not also be an appropriate timeline for Herbert Hoover bids to be sent out again for rebids? I'm just concerned about looking like PAUSD is selectively providing favoritism for one school population or parent population versus another parent population. And we all are aware that Herbert Hoover has a higher proportion of Asian Americans at Herbert Hoover. And during this time of political unrest and about racism towards Asian Americans with the coronavirus, I think PAUSD should be very careful in looking like they favor a certain subset of students and parents over another subset and claiming fiduciary duty and stopping construction bids on one site and moving green lighting construction bids on another school site. Because all students, regardless of ethnicity, whether they're yellow, black, purple, green, or striped or polka dotted, should be treated equally. And all teachers serving all the students should be all treated equally. All students deserve a right to work and learn in a healthy, safe environment where they have access to clean air and good water without peeling paints and rat infestation. So if health and safety is important, then it should be addressed directly to all elementary schools ubiquitously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And pardon me. And the last speaker is one name only, Ellie.
Hello. Hello. Hi. This is Emily Chen speaking again. So I'm here. I hear this wonderful renovation plan of Palo Verde, and I feel very complex to see that. So, you know, there's new buildings, new MP, all this different, very fancy items that they get. And then we don't ask for all the standards to be equal, but I just want my children to have a safety water line, a safety paint, a safe quality classroom to be in with the proper lighting fixtures. And I was very happy to see the both GON representative and the Pali representative stood up for the students because they are students. They know what it feels like when it's going through renovation. And for Hoover, the students already experienced 1 year of renovation. It's not just begin, they already did. So to pause as it with no further planning in your schedule, that also raise questions about, do you have something against our school personally? So, and let me change my question too. I want to ask the 4 board members who voted to stop the renovation at Hoover and also didn't give us an answer of what is the proper schedule to redo this or rebid. I want to ask you, well, if your house is under renovation for a year now, and then suddenly your construction worker said, oh, sorry, we're gonna just pause here and just leave it to you. How do you feel like to live in a house like that? Because that's what's happening to Hoover right now at this moment.
Ellie, I want to pause you just because the item is the Palo Verde schematic. So if you have comments on that, we'd be happy to take them.
All right, well, my comments is because I actually also do live in the Palo Verde neighborhood. So I'm happy for them for the renovation, but still as a Hoover parent, I'm still speaking up for my neighborhood. And please answer my question. Would you like to live in a house that's already renovated for a year and then paused forever? Would you? Please answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for community comments. And again, just to clarify, this item is not for action. This is first reading only. So I'll invite any board member comments. Or student board members, raise your hands too, but I'll take the board member comments first. Looks like Dr. Golden wants to say something first.
Yes, let me comment on this. First, we're not approving construction to proceed at Palo Verde. This is simply part of the process that would move us about 18 months from now to be able to bid this project. No, we wouldn't. We're simply not ready to do it at this time. I think, yeah, I don't want to, I guess, take a lot of time, but the fact remains, when our previous bond was approved in 2008, the so-called Great Recession, but by the way, the Great Recession is nothing in terms of job loss and everything compared to what's happening during this pandemic. But the fact remains, when those projects got ready to bid, the very first project, we had 15 bidders. 15 bidders, contractors that didn't want to make a lot of money, rather wanted to keep their people employed. So we don't know what the environment's going to be like 15 months from now, but we know what the environment's like now. And this is an incredibly uncertain environment. There's been nothing like this. There's been nothing like this since the Great Depression. So this is not to say that Palo Verde is more important than Hoover. This is simply a part of this design process so that at some point in the future, 18 months from now or the like, we'll be able to put this project out to bid. Absent that, we would wait 18 months and then start up this project over again. So that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Brianza, I saw your hand up before. Did you want to speak? No?
Yeah, there I am. Okay. Yeah, okay. I want to speak. I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that I heard there, which were really concerning, because if our community is feeling that way, that's a problem. And as someone who sits on the property committee, I just want to speak to the fact that, as Dr. Golden said, this is in the planning phase and the other one was in the bidding phase. They're in different places, but as someone on the property committee, when the bid came in more than $5 million over bid, when all the bids came in, that was a big concern, right? We are talking about the need for air conditioning at different sites. We have, many, many different things happening. And to accept a bid that was more than $5 million higher felt like maybe not the best decision to do right now. So what we did tonight was we rejected those bids. It doesn't mean we're not going to come back with another plan, and we're not going to keep working on what the options are and what the possibilities are going forward. But it felt like the right thing to do right then. And I still think it was the right thing to do, although I understand why it's not a popular thing to do. But it doesn't mean that we've paused the entire bond program. It means that we rejected those bids because they were high. And this was something that the property committee saw too. And these conceptual and schematic plans continue. Now, whether or not we go out to bid on them will depend on the timing and all those other things, the enrollment and what the bids are if we go out on them, whether we accept one. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm sorry that our community has, some of people have commented, have that feeling. I don't think that is the thinking of anyone on the property committee or anyone on staff or anyone on the board. But I am concerned that is a perception, and want to make sure the reasons why decisions were made, and that it doesn't mean it's the end of the game. It just, we rejected the bids because they were high, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Darup, I don't know what you're putting together there, but I want to hear your comment.
Thank you. My mouse fell down and broke.
Oh.
I just want to follow up on Mr. Brianza's comment and say those are concerning comments, and I'm sorry folks feel that way. When Palo Verde comes in front of the property committee at the bidding phase, if we're in a similar situation financially that we are today, in a similarly uncertain environment, and the bids come back almost $6 million over, I expect that whoever is on the property committee will scrutinize that with the same level of scrutiny as we did on the property committee, because I think that every member of this board agrees that one of our duties is to be fiscally responsible when it comes to spending our money. So, I think as a background too, and I encourage any members of the public to show up to the property committee meetings, because they can be very illuminating. Until I was on the property committee, I did not realize how much more complicated and how many stages these projects have. And all of them are at different stages. And so what may seem to be perhaps treating one school unlike another or one project unlike another. Oftentimes it's just that some projects are in different phases than others. And that means that the considerations for moving forward are very, very different. And that is just, I mean, I would really recommend coming to a property committee meeting just to learn a little more about how exactly the district is evaluating this, because it can, you know, it can give a little perspective. So that's all. I know I've learned a lot from it, and I hope community members will show up.
Thank you, Mr. Dauber.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm with Dr. Golton. I've heard, I don't know how many steps, 17 steps, 42 steps, there's many steps. And as far as I recall, the board, a board vote is required at many of these steps, including the decision about whether to put a project out for bid, right? So that in November 2021 or early 2022 or whatever it is, the board will have to consider and authorize the question about whether this project should take the next step and be put out for bid. Is that right? Do I have that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Although there's only 11 steps. There's not.
I was going to say, I thought it was 11.
Yeah.
I think the 2 meeting rule is confusing me, but maybe that's the.
So maybe
that's
20,
the
22. Yeah.
22 steps. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments on this? I did have one quick question for you, Dr. Golton. What is the expense associated with this? If this is approved at a future meeting, what's the expense for submitting? I mean, we're approving schematic design. Is there any expenses associated with this?
Yes, Tom will give a better number to this, but the next, so we've done the schematic design. That's it. So that is completed. The next step is these the design development construction documents. Tom, do you want to give a number to that?
Well, I can at least provide frame of reference. So I think the architect's design services are about $1 million. So in total, we've probably finished about a third of that up to this point. And we would probably be looking at another 40% of their fee. So if you want to say around 400, 500,000, that would be between now and when we ask to submit to DSA. On top of that, we'd probably be looking at another 100 to 200,000 of expenses to do, soils reports, hazmat surveys, all the other outside consultant expenses that we do. So it's less than $1 million that we're looking at between now and our next milestone.
When you say milestone, does that mean an approval point by the board?
When our next milestone will be in May, we will be asking for authorization to submit to DSA.
Okay, so you're basically, so though it isn't, it may be in the details of the item, but in the summary of the item, it wasn't clear. So you're basically asking for, if we approve this, we're essentially greenlighting the expenditure of between $500,000 and $1 million?
Yeah, so design development and construction documents.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Dauber, I see your hand is up again. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah. I wanted to, am I coming through okay? I just wanted to check first okay. I wanted to raise a question that I did on an earlier item like this, which is about whether we are taking any learnings from the pandemic in terms of the renovations that we're doing. Like obviously we would be happier if we had more ventilation, if we had the ability to get students to not have to have students in closed classrooms and so forth. I mean, I think we would appreciate that now if we had that. Is that a consideration that you've considered taking forward into the design phase, or am I just kind of off base?
Oh, that definitely is. First, as far as ventilation on the natural, the ventilation standards are different than they were 10 years from now, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, when these structures were built. And so we're not only doing that, but the design itself is proceeding given this necessity that this pandemic has caused. So
yeah, I remember,
yeah.
Dr. Gold, if I could just interrupt you there. I remember, maybe it was for El Carmelo, seeing, for example, an MP room design that had a roll-up wall.
Addison.
Was it Addison? Okay. That had a roll-up wall that kind of brought indoor and outdoor spaces closer together. That's the kind of, I know that goes beyond ventilation standards, but I wonder if those kinds of features, I'm not recommending a particular feature, but I wonder if those kinds of features are something that you're considering.
You want me to answer that, Dr. Bull?
Yeah, do it, Tom.
Yeah, so in this particular case of Palo Verde, there's no roll-up door. Both El Carmelo and Addison have roll-up doors, and even Hoover did in their design. But in this particular case, because of the location of the MP room, it would open up to a parking lot, so we didn't want to do that. But we are having constant conversations about recommendations from, the pandemic and making modifications to whether it's, providing hot water to sinks in the classrooms or, something to improve air quality, not only moving more air and introducing outside air, but just cleaning air, if you will. But these are all things that are coming up so fast, right? That it's almost a weekly conversation for us, and we'll be implementing things as we get further in design. Again, Palo Verde, we're so early in design that, we still have a lot of time to implement whatever we learn in the next 4 or 5 months as far as responding to the pandemic stuff. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I think that's a good opportunity. I'll be interested to see how it pans out in the designs. Thanks.
Yeah, if I can just build on that briefly. I mean, I'd had some conversations with district staff around ventilation of classrooms. And one thing that if you've been reading about this is the push to move from MERV 8 to MERV 13 filtration on HVAC. And it's a real challenge with existing systems because they're engineered for a certain level of filter, the MERV 8 filter, which is the industry standard. Are we considering, or have we moved our standard? And I know there are a couple of new buildings in the district have MERV 13 filters. Are we considering that are we building that into our plans going forward?
Yeah, right now, code for new projects is that they're MERV 13 filters. Where we've talked about making a change at the existing classrooms from MERV 8 to filters to MERV 13 filters is been in the context of the study on the HVAC and making it part of that project.
Oh, so, great.
So that's how we're planning on tackling that issue.
That's great. I hadn't heard that. That's great news. Okay, if there's no other discussion on this, this is not agendized for action, so it'll be coming back at a future date when staff brings it back. Okay, thank you, Dr. Goulton and Mr. Hodges.
Great, thank you.
All right, next up is staff reports, and item 7A is the Learning Continuity and Attendance Don't Call Me LCAP plan.
Yeah.
Dr. Austin.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in Ms. Ofak. We've got about a 30-minute PowerPoint. I'm just joking.
Perfect for this time of the evening. Thank you.
This is about a 2-minute item. It's just a foreshadow, but it is important. So I don't want to blow over it. But tonight is just looking at a template. So Ms. Ofak, go ahead and walk.
Can I just ask before we do that, could people who do not want to speak on this item put their hands down? We got to clear our hands a little bit before we start the new item. All right, go ahead, Ms. Ofak. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you. I'm going to try and be super brief. So just as you said, fortunately or unfortunately, this Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan has the same acronym as our LCAP. And so we're calling it the LCP. So we don't get confused. It is a requirement this year instead of the LCAP. It's an opportunity for our district to report to the state and the county all of the impacts that COVID has had on our instructional program and the paradigm shifts that we're putting in motion to address all the supports and needs of our students. There are 5 required areas if you want to look at the template, but I'll just tell you the main 5 required areas are stakeholder engagement, continuity of learning, mental health and social and emotional well-being, pupil and family engagement and outreach, and school nutrition. So in that plan, there's also a space where we have to provide a response to multiple scenarios. So when we come back with the draft information, it will have all of that detailed. I imagine it will end up being somewhere between a 20 and 30 page report, more like 30, I think. We're in the midst right now of collecting stakeholder feedback. We can count all of our board meetings and information and collection and data gathering from April on. So that's very helpful. This is due to the county and the CDE by the end of September. So we have a really tight timeline. The dates are all delineated. I will say, even though 1,000 eyes have checked this out, I did find a typo. So I'm going to work with Ms. Lau to correct one of those. And that is actually this report this evening. It says August 28th instead of August 25th. So I will correct that. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this item. There are a requirement for a public hearing and a requirement for approval in 2 separate meetings. So this is the first of 3 meetings in a row, I think, that we'll be seeing this item. And we have already completed 3 of the stakeholder engagement meetings and have 2 more to go next week, one of which is a community meeting. So we have a lot planned and a lot going on in a really rapid period of time because our time frame is really compressed. The template only just came out as we were preparing this document for uploading to the board docs. So we're trying to move as quickly as we can. And that's it.
Thank you. So we'll now take public comment. So if you want to speak on this item, now's the time to raise your hand. And I'll wait just a second to see what we get here. Okay, it looks like we'll start with 3 minutes, and first up will be Nira Vats, followed by Kimberly Ang-Lee, followed by Karen Seresnak. Nira, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, actually my hand was up from the previous item. Is there a timeline when you would allow you will ask for Hoover item to rebid? We didn't get answer for that. I think a few people asked if Palo Verde timeline applies to Hoover as well.
Apologies. Yeah, sorry. We closed the speaker queue and we had to move to the next item. All right, Kimberly Ang-Lee, Elaine Heel, and Meb Steiner.
Hi, Kimberly Ang-Lee, co-chair for the Palo Alto CAC. You heard earlier that the Moreland School District K-8, about half the size of PAUSD, received a waiver for in-person instruction. The superintendent said, our primary purpose as educators is to support all students the best way we can. And we know that there are some students out there that cannot be supported through distance learning and whose parents desperately need the support. Students with the most severe needs are prioritized on their return list. Members of this board have said that special ed students are a top priority. I hope the actions needed to make this true are shared by all. As parents, we're balancing physical health and safety against our kids' mental health and safety. It's a terrible but real predicament. The LCP includes actions an LEA will take to offer in-person classroom-based instruction whenever possible, particularly for students who have experienced or are at a greater risk of experiencing learning loss. We can attest that the pandemic and resulting move to distance-only learning has had a profound impact on students with disabilities and their families. We're eager for the guidance received today and how it will impact the LCP. CAC will participate in the September 2nd meeting, and we intend to advocate for individual plans that meet the accessibility and instructional needs of students in special ed. Whether pre-pandemic or mid-pandemic, one-size-fits-all solutions simply do not work. The CDE recommends frequent communication with families. We ask that PAUSD exercise flexibility and creativity and problem solve with parents. Proactive check-ins about needs and challenges is essential to making pandemic learning effective. It's time to move beyond hoping and start to figure it out. To paraphrase Dr. Sarah Cody, there are COVID risks in bringing people together, but we also know there are harms of kids remaining at home and not coming back for in-person. Let me also make a comment about accelerating progress in the area of English language arts and English language development. We're disappointed there's no dyslexia update tonight. There hasn't been public engagement on this topic since November, and the superintendent's email, while detailed, is not a plan, and there's no mechanism for engaging in a very complex topic. Money was approved for professional development, new TOSAs and Lexia, but we have not confirmed an identification and intervention flow, if efficient, metrics for assessing learning, progress, and instructional fidelity, and concerns with secondary efforts that don't meet dyslexia guidelines. As we said last time and believe more than ever, we need a group of savvy stakeholders engaged to transition the pre-pandemic dyslexia plan to a distance learning model that works. This is an important thing, and it's an equity issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Heel, Meb Steiner, and one name Ellie.
Hi, I'm Elaine Heel, a parent in the district. After attending the last board meeting, I'd understood that there'd be an update on dyslexia at tonight's board meeting. I was disappointed that it wasn't on the agenda. That update was originally scheduled for March and has been postponed ever since. I appreciate the content in the superintendent's Friday update related to supporting struggling readers. However, it does not replace the board dyslexia update. Understanding that implementing the California dyslexia guidelines and a dyslexia plan, especially in distance learning, is a challenging task, it continues to be an important one. It's required under SB 98 and also under the district's own dyslexia resolution passed in January 2018. The dyslexia resolution confirms PAUSD's commitment to supporting administrators, teachers, and students in identifying and addressing the needs of students with dyslexia, providing professional learning for educators, and providing education and supports to students and families to promote self-awareness, self-empowerment, and overall success in school and life. While the board has approved additional spending for dyslexia, there has not been public engagement on the dyslexia plan. Given the additional challenges of addressing the needs of students with dyslexia and distance learning and supporting teachers in addressing those needs, it makes sense to resurrect the dyslexia working group of key stakeholders to continue the important work around a dyslexia plan. The dyslexia working group has not met since December 2019. The dyslexia working group was instrumental in beginning the development of a plan to implement the California dyslexia guidelines at PAUSD. Please consider adding a dyslexia update to the board agenda so staff, board, and community can have an opportunity to discuss the district's dyslexia plan. And also, please reinstate the dyslexia working group to continue this important work. Thank you.
Thank you. Meb Steiner, and then the last speaker will be Ellie.
Good evening, this is Meb Steiner, again, president of CSEA. I actually just have a very quick thanks. I want to thank Dr. Judy Agumero, who came today to our chapter meeting to update us about the LCP, the Learning Continuity Plan, and share her presentation and answer questions. And we look forward to providing input from CSEA and our members throughout the district. So just a big thank you to her and to everyone who is working on this.
Thank you. All right, and the last speaker on this item is Ellie.
Hello. Hi, this is Emily Chen speaking again. So I'm actually speaking for the previous question that Mr. Lee from the GOM school representative asked. So he asked you guys, will the condition remain the same when you said you will cancel the renovation?
I'm sorry, Ellie. We're only able to take comment on the current item. Do you have any comment on the current item?
I would like you to answer my question first because no one has answered that question yet.
Sorry that we're not able to do so. All right, and it looks like that's it for public comment on this. If you have additional comments on this, and at least one person entered the queue after we had closed it when the first speaker finished, you can email your comments to board@pausd.org. Okay, any board member question or comments on the LCP? Seeing none. Oh, Mr. Brienza with the physical hand.
I didn't recall that we were expecting a dyslexia update this meeting, but I am curious to know if Ms. Brown or Ms. OFAC could speak to the status of where we're at, what we've done. I know we purchased some, Lexia and whatnot, but can anyone give us an update right now?
I can take that. The update was the Friday update. That's why it had the detail that it had that is not characteristic for a Friday update topic, but with the breadth of what we knew we were going to be covering tonight, that was the update for right now.
And let me.
Okay, I guess what I'm curious about is one of the things we talked about in the spring was the training that reading specialists would get, the training that all K2 teachers or all K5 teachers would get. And so I understand why that was delayed, but wondering if we've got a plan for when we're gonna make all that happen. And maybe we're not able to answer that right now.
What I was going to suggest, if I may, and Dr. Austin, it sounds like you and I haven't communicated clearly on it, is that I was going to suggest that we actually do agendize the dyslexia and struggling reader issue for a meeting in September. Because while the update was quite detailed, it didn't give the community a chance to weigh in and interact, nor the board members to ask questions of staff in a public venue. And those are things I think are appropriate for this item. So I think we will be agendizing this for September.
Yeah, and I think we communicated effectively. I think I did not relay it right now effectively. So for this particular meeting, the decision was made for the Friday update, not that was a complete replacement. So
okay,
sorry, that was not clear.
But yeah, I think board members and community members, I think this is a very valid concern, and the Friday update was appreciated, but it's not it's a stopgap while we gather ourselves to have a fuller discussion in September.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions on LCP? There's no action on this item. Okay, thank you, Ms. Ofek. Thank you, Dr. Austin, on that. Moving on to item 7B, strengthening student and family support during distance learning. Dr. Austin.
All right. We do have 3 staff reports left. 2 we believe are very brief, and 1 will probably be a little less brief. So we've asked Ms. Conway to give just a couple bullet points. Her actual board item is, as always, very nicely done and comprehensive, but we're just going to hit a couple high points right now. So Ms. Conway.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Austin. Good evening, everyone. As always, I'm very delighted to provide the board with a snapshot of the district's efforts to support and engage families. You've heard us say more than once that we need to expand our reach and find some creative solutions to addressing some of the barriers to learning that we've noticed since COVID-19. So we did. If you were looking for our coordinator of student and family engagement, for example, over spring and summer 2020, you may have found him under a box of fresh produce or a carton of milk. But in addition to that, we have amped up some of our supports and services and partnered with departments across the district to do some pretty unique things. For example, a DoorDash-like delivery service. All of our school sites have provided supplies to students, and we're offering delivery services however and whenever we can for those parents who don't have transportation or can't afford to get to the sites. So our objective was to spend a lot of attention just doing outreach to identify needs. And we have collected enough information to know we have lots more work to do. And you'll see in the board report just a few examples of some of the things that we've done. But I will tell you probably the most exciting about our progress in the addition to some of the other elements is the Latinx Parent Series, which our board has been invited to. We had our first one this last Thursday. And while I couldn't understand a word of it because it was in 100% Spanish, it was great to see over 100 Spanish-speaking parents in one forum asking good questions and receiving good information. So while I'll say we can't meet every need, but I can tell you that we are responding to needs faster than ever and with more depth than ever. So special thanks to the departments and all of the site leaders that have collaborated on these efforts, and for the parent community who has done their part to the max to try to support our school and our students in getting some of the things that they need. So that's it for me. And without further ado, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thank you for that, that rousing update. Always a pleasure to see you. Okay, we can take community comment now. So if you want to comment on this, this is the time to raise your hand, and I'll wait just a beat so we can make sure we have a good count. Okay, I'm thinking we're going to have fewer than 10, so it'll be 3 minutes each. And the first up will be Nicole McLennan, followed by Lauren Williams, and then Michelle Higgins.
So I'm pretty off topic at this point, but so upset by your lack of attention to dyslexia, and you skipped right over it. We had the ball rolling in the last meeting, and you
I'm
promised.
so sorry, Ms. McLennan, but I'm not sure that's an appropriate comment on this item.
Well, you know,
So if you'd like, you can, and I really apologize. But I think, I was going to say, if you'd like to email your comments to board@pausd.org, I think that would be equally effective and greatly appreciated. All right, so Lauren Williams, Michelle Higgins, and Meb Steiner.
Hi, my name is Lauren Williams. In addition to being a parent of 2 PAUSD students, I am also a community volunteer focused on the well-being of PAUSD families in need due to the global pandemic. Oh, wait, I'm reading the wrong thing. Sorry.
Take your time.
Okay.
That was for the other board meeting you're calling into.
Yes, it was. Oh my gosh, I totally messed this up.
Hey, why don't you drop off? I'll tell you what, we'll come back to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so Meb Steiner and then Kimberly Enley. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle Higgins. Sorry, Michelle. Meb Steiner, Kimberly Enley, and then we'll come back to Lauren Williams. Michelle, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Sorry, I thought you called Meb. Hi, first I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Conway and the team for the really significant outreach that I know has been going on behind the scenes throughout the spring and over the summer, and will continue this year. I know people are working really hard, and it's appreciated. I have a few questions about the childcare that's being provided to PAUSD families. First, is it being provided simply on a first come, first served market model basis, or are places being set aside in advance for children of essential workers and children from low socioeconomic backgrounds whose parents do not have other viable options like private nannies or learning pods? And if not, why not? Second, I had assumed the district will be funding the $25 per day heavily subsidized childcare places for low-income families. But from the board report, it seems we're looking to outside nonprofits to fund these spots. Are there no district funds to meet this urgent need for low-income families during distance learning? Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to briefly, is that a question you can briefly address, Ms. Conway, or?
Yes, I will say that currently we are opening up spaces so that we can serve those students in need. We are not at capacity, but obviously our reason for entering into the partnership in the first place was to identify low-cost options for our parents who may financially struggle. That being said, obviously, even a little bit of money could be a struggle for some families. So there have been agencies that have reached out to try to identify what partnerships can be formed so that we can sponsor families for that purpose. So they are in a position more so than we are to raise funds for those purposes. So hopefully we'll be able to partner with some of those groups to make that happen.
Thank you. All right, Meb Steiner, Kimberly Engley, and the last speaker will be Adriana Flores Regate.
Good evening, Meb Steiner again. I'm feeling a little bit like Mr. Dauber when he used to come to board meetings before being a board member and speak to multiple topics tonight. I just want to actually express great appreciation for this program. I think the supports we are trying to offer our families and students are so critical. When we think in terms of supporting the whole child, all of these things are what help our students succeed. And I want to call special attention to the critical role that our classified staff are playing in providing these services. Our food service department clearly since day one of school closures has been there and throughout the summer. The delivery of supplies and foods through our bus drivers. Our IT team that is stretched beyond anything. It used to be they supported perhaps the teachers in the school. Now we're supporting teachers, students, parents, all staff in a really incredibly intense way. And part of the SAFE team as well. We have such a diverse group of people in classified staff, so many different languages. That'll become clear in the presentation from the HR department. And skills that we can tap into, and connections to the communities, and connections to culture and language that allow many of our classified staff to be utilized for all of these support services. I know that we're looking into some of that, and I am very excited to see how we can really leverage the amazing classified staff that we have. And I want to thank everyone, who's involved in this program of establishing these supports, and just wanted to give a special shout out to how critical our classified staff are in meeting all of these needs. So thank you. And I think our community is much, much better for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kimberly Angley, Adriana Flores Regate, and then Lauren Williams is back again, so we'll include her as well.
Hi, Kimberly Ang Lee, parent in the school district, and I'm going to speak a little more off the cuff than I usually do, but I really just wanted to take the time to just echo a lot of what you've heard already, which is just very deep appreciation for the work that Lana Conaway and Miguel Futoria, every single one of the family engagement specialists and classified support staff, the work that they've been doing. First in the spring, then again all through the summer, and now starting up in the fall. I think it's become just so apparent through this pandemic, the role that schools play in offering and providing social services to kids in need. And it's really clear that until these kids are safe, that they're just not ready to learn. And so in order for us to be an effective school district for all kids, we really do need and really do need to have the kinds of services that this team has been putting together. And so we very much appreciate that what they're doing has really gone above and beyond. And I see that at the site level at Gunn, but through just my conversations across the district with other families, just knowing that what they do is invaluable. And so I just really want to appreciate the work that's being done by everyone there. So thanks again.
Thank you. Adriana Flores Regate, and then Lauren Williams.
Hi, can you hear me?
We do.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And I want to also advocate for subsidizing childcare for low-income families. Thank you so much, Dr. Conway, for the partnerships that you're forging. And this summer, in collaboration with San Jose State University, we had a partnership to provide counseling services to low-income communities. And I personally worked with a lot of elementary school families. And I want to thank the family engagement specialists, because people like Christian Munoz, Ana Perez Hood, and Claudia are working tirelessly with our elementary school students. And as a parent of elementary school kids, I know how hard it is to keep them on track. And I know that many of the parents mentioned that they were the only line of communications that they had with schools. So they are very important for these families. Also, I want to make sure that that we continue to explore opportunities to reach in different languages. And I want to congratulate Miguel and Dr. Conway for the work that they're doing to do very important outreach to the Spanish-speaking community.
Thank you. And then the last speaker is Lauren Williams. Version 2.
Thanks, Todd. Sorry about that. I'm trying to multitask this evening. I'm trying to put together back to school night schedules at
I can only imagine.
Yep. So my name is Lauren Williams. I'm a parent of 2 PAUS students and a community volunteer. I'd like to, in starting tonight, I'd like to thank Yolanda Conway for all the work she and her team have done. It is really, I feel like it's really truly a partnership now that many of us have with the district when it comes to outreach, and she is a huge, huge part of that. So thank you, Lana. I applaud the progress the district has made with deploying devices. I understand the outreach work and investment necessary to have accomplished this. While that work continues, I'm here to ask for your commitment to proactively measure attendance issues taking place during the early weeks of distance learning. I urge the board specifically to address how the district will quickly remedy attendance concerns related to the lack of reliable internet access or other technology challenges that limit a student's ability to access their education. Access to reliable internet service is more important than ever for all students. I'm experiencing the challenges firsthand in my home with 2 students. They have gone from needing to be online a few days a week for a few hours in the fall or in the spring to being online 5 days a week for several hours today. I imagine my 2 students, one who's in elementary, one who's in secondary, trying to pull off the same scenario using a single hotspot or low bandwidth internet. I know, given the unreliability of cellular service in our neighborhood, my children would have missed attendance in at least one learning block due to lack of access. By the time we reach the normal 1-month review of chronic absenteeism, we will have likely lost engagement from a student who has been experiencing daily connectivity challenges. The reporting from sites must be timely and needs to include solutions such as providing hotspots at the same ratio, 1-to-1, as the district has made with learning devices to remedy controllable circumstances. This is particularly critical to equitable access to education for students experiencing socioeconomic disadvantages. During the time of COVID, the district and school sites must be more proactive to address controllable issues such as reliable access to internet. And this must be done quickly, and the board must hold them accountable for this. Thank you.
Thanks. And we did have one more speaker I think we have time for, is Sarah Woodham Johnson.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I had technical difficulties. Yeah, I wanted to just really be thankful for a lot of the work that the Equity Office and Lana's team has done in trying to support our most vulnerable, most socioeconomically disadvantaged kids. And I sort of want to just keep that on the front burner. I know she did like a really brief report, but what I want to do is, call for the board to provide details of the academic and social emotional impacts that, that these students have experienced over spring sheltering in place and where we are in mitigating that exactly, like numbers. I like numbers. Academically, secondary students now have to get letter grades. I don't believe that we saw numbers for how many middle schoolers ended up with like a no credit in a core class. How many high schoolers ended up with no credit in a core class? Can we say something more about if the support that's being provided matches the actual need, given the horrible impact of COVID? And I guess, without sort of hearing it explicitly said, it feels as though the supports that we have are being deployed as efficiently as we can. But I don't know that I'm convinced that, without numbers around the actual kids and, who are struggling and who will, of course, struggle even more now in the fall for all the reasons that other speakers just mentioned. Will have the support we need for what the district is doing. I appreciate the coaches and the family engagement folks who have their hands full just trying to mitigate basic needs. I know that we have some one-on-one tutors, but what are the numbers? Like, how many kids did not get credit? How many tutors do we have who can provide support? There was talk, about partnering with various nonprofits. Where are we with respect to those nonprofits that can help? What specifically can they do? How much will it cost? And what percentage of our kids who did not get credit in the spring would be covered potentially by that help? And I also want to say that using outside organizations is clearly helpful, but ultimately a lot of these kids, like special ed kids, need contact and need to be triaged into whatever the process is to get them in front of
Thank you. That was the 3-minute mark. Please feel free to email additional comments at board@pausd.org. Okay, so any board member questions or comments on this item? Mr. Dauber. Mr. Dauber is the talkative one tonight, and then followed by Ms. DeBrienza, I think.
I just wanted to second Ms. Woodham Johnson's request for some data that would give us a sense about the extent of student need and the extent to which we're meeting it. I think that it's very heartening to see the efforts that are being made and the programs that are being deployed, but I think it would also be really useful to understand what it looks like from a student perspective, to get a sense about whether we need to do more, we need to do different, whether this is exactly the right set of things to be doing. So I would appreciate hearing about that at a future meeting.
Okay, Ms. DeBrienza.
Yeah, thanks. I want to say thank you to the whole staff, for all the administration, really, for everything that's been done to start to meet these needs, and especially to you, Ms. Conaway, for this laser focus. A couple of questions just about the data that you included here. So we're midway through the second week of school, and you mentioned supplies, kids picking up supplies. Do we know now at this point how many kids yet still haven't picked up their supply packet? I mean, it doesn't mean they can't be logging in, but whatever the school intended for them to have, do we know how many kids still don't have them?
Yeah. Well, I would say that not all families actually needed them. So having the numbers of the number of people didn't pick it up is really not a measure of need. However, what we are identifying are those students that we know or at least are concerned about having a need, and watching very carefully and doing some outreach to make a determination on whether there's a barrier to them actually getting access to it. So that's an ongoing kind of cause. Our safe specialists are literally making tons of calls every single day. And it's not something that has an end mark right now. It's something that's every day. It could be increasing in terms of the number of needs and a level of needs we identify. So we responded.
Okay. Thanks. On the same sort of subject, it looks like we have been distributing significantly fewer lunches than we were over the summer. And I'm wondering if you have any sense of why that might be. I mean, I don't know, maybe they're just all super busy in front of their computers at home and they can't go pick up lunch, but it seems like a lot fewer pickup.
Well, I would say that our number of deliveries have increased. The number of actual meals we're decreasing. So, I can't really give a reason why the numbers may have increased overall, but I will tell you that if there's any family that may need some support, they're great about reaching out, but we also know those families we need to look out for too. In terms of our outreach calls, that's one of the things that we ask. Are you accessing meals? Mr. Vittoria just sent out a district-wide communication saying, if you need these things, and they're bulleted out, parents are now able to call a direct line or email directly to request specific support. So the message is out there. If a family has a need and has not asked, that is more likely the issue rather than us being able to identify a resource or support for the need.
Okay, and in that email, that includes like devices and access to Wi-Fi and whatnot, which I assume we solved for the most part in the spring, since we did a lot of that work in the spring, but I know we probably have some new students. Let's see what else. Oh, the other thing is Mr. Dauber mentioned it too, after a couple of our commenters mentioned it. We obviously have all the data from the spring as to who earned and no credit, what kids got credit, what kids struggled with this model of distance learning. And we know we've got tons of partner organizations from FCE to College Track to Dreamcatchers, whatnot. So I'm hoping that we are looking at who did well, which students found success in the spring, which students didn't, who is connected to these groups. Have these groups really been more effective in doing that one-to-one outreach that, a lot of those organizations already have real close connections with students and families. So they may have been immediately who those families went to in the spring. So I hope if we have found that those organizations have had more, I feel like we talked about this last meeting, if they've had more success, if we are reaching out to them to see if they have more capacity and if there is a way that we can help them fund more capacity to make sure that those gaps are closed wherever they can be. I'm hoping that's something that you guys are working on.
Well, I will tell you, I've tapped every organization I know, and if there's one out there that I haven't tapped, somebody call me and let me know who they are so I can reach out. But
you all heard that. Everyone heard
absolutely, that. I would say that, Dreamcatcher is one of our strongest partners right now in terms of the data that we saw regarding outcomes is the most promising at this moment. That doesn't mean that some of the other agencies we're attempting to partner with can reach that level and address some of the needs of some of the students we haven't been able to tap into. So it's promising.
Okay, thanks. Can you just speak to, it was nice to see about the SSOA that you've got. How did parents get selected for that?
I have to tell you, that's probably one of the most diverse and incredible groups I have worked with. Some of them came through recommendations from PTAC. Others were word of mouth. Others have been folks that I've worked with in some of the outreach efforts already. For example, community members, the squad, I'm sure everyone is familiar with. They were one of the first groups I reached out to just because of their level of outreach in the community during the spring 2020. They were the most active, the most involved with our families. So getting a representative from that team was critical. I also had a goal to make sure that there was a diverse representation on that group. So you will find parents, African-American, Latinx, we've got it covered just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. And we've even included members of certain advisory groups like the Latino Parent Network. Adriana is on that. I'm sure folks know her. So I feel like we have a good representation and can really tap into some of the needs of the community at a deeper level.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. And I'm sure we don't have an answer to this yet because we're still going through our negotiations and getting off the watch list and whatnot, but looking at PAUSD and our ability to do it in person in any way, shape, or form, like what is the administration's current thinking on that? Are you guys hoping that in a few weeks there will be some in-person PAUSD plus? Are you just not even thinking about dates right now, just in a wait and see mode? Where are we?
I think there's much to figure out there. I am waiting at the start line with my tennis shoes on, ready to run when it's time to go. But certainly there are other parameters that we have to make sure that we sort out and tie up so we do it well and we do it in the safest way possible. So my hope is that we can proceed with that regarding, depending on if we have the kind of space we need to make it happen, but that remains to be seen. I think we have more work to do.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mr. Drop.
Thank you. I'd like to express my appreciation to staff and in particular Ms. Conaway for leading the charge on this. And this work is particularly important now. It always is particularly important, but given the uncertainty now and the fact that where we are simply widens gaps that already exist, this is very important work. And so I echo my colleagues' support of our continuing emphasis on this work. I am certainly looking forward to attending the Latinx Parent Ed series on Thursday. And lastly, I also echo my colleagues' request that we do see more data and more information, a follow-up report. And one of the things that I wanted to remind everyone is, we used to have a standing equity update, and I know things have been different, during COVID, but now seems a particularly good time to remember the reason that we had it. And it, you know, that's a decision that the committee, the agenda setting committee will make, but certainly something I think we should be cognizant of, that, you know, if we are really intent on tracking this and really figuring out whether our students are being served by this work and how they're being served, a standing equity update certainly seems the way to go. So thank you again for all your work, and as always, I'm very much in support.
Thank you.
Thanks. The one question I had, and Dr. Conaway, Ms. Conaway.
Ms. Conaway, yes.
Ms. Conaway. And you may know the answer, you may not, but it was a question that was raised earlier about making sure that kids are using attendance as an indicator for, you know, surrogate for engagement. And obviously we have, you know, systems where we look at chronic attendance and so on, but what's happening with kids who do not dial in, who are not connecting the first week of school or the second week of school? What's the, who's on that?
Yes, so there are two approaches to that. And this is probably one of the most important reminders I will give everybody tonight, and that is the first line of support is the teacher, the site level folks, the counselors. If they are struggling to either connect with the family or communicate with the family, our SAFE specialists are the ones that will respond. So I will say that, you know, we've talked a lot about data and tracking data. The SAFE team, or this team, is not a replacement for good instruction. So that it is extremely important for teachers and site level individuals to make sure that they are engaged with these families as well. And it's not just left up to the SAFE team to make those connections. They are additional support, not in place of. So that's the only way we're going to have the level of support we need when we have multiple groups on that. But I will say, if there is a student who is identified under PAUSD Plus or the coaching model, those students are case managed individually, which means that on a regular, consistent basis, attendance is checked and monitored and documented as part of their student success plan. So you will, by the end of the year, we will have an update from 1 week to the next, how well a student is doing and actually connecting with the coursework.
So, but just for this, you know, since we're in a transition period, the start of school, a totally unique experience. Like if kids don't catch the bus when it leaves, it's hard to, you have to chase it for a while. So are the teachers and the principals responsible for, hey, you know, this kid didn't show up for second grade or came the first day and then didn't come for the next three?
Right.
Who's got the ball for?
My whole, Todd, is when a child does not show up for class, a teacher's picking up the phone and making a call to figure out why. If a pattern develops and there's been no response to the initial intervention, it is absolutely appropriate to connect with the SAFE specialist to say, here are all the things that I've done, or the social worker or the attendance person. Here are the things that I've done and have not been able to make a connection. And then we layer on support.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that SAFE should be the first line of support for that. I mean, maybe it's a question for somebody else in the organization is, you know, somebody like who's been a principal recently, you know, is that something that principals are doing? If a kid doesn't show up for, you know, 2 of the first 5 days of school, does the teacher pick up the phone, or does the principal pick up the phone? Because we don't want to lose the thread on those kids. And like I said, if you miss the bus, it's hard to catch up.
Right, absolutely.
Dr.
So
Austin,
I think it's important to collect that data to make sure, if you will recall in the spring 2020, I received regular reports each week about the students who didn't actually log on, and what percentage and what number of students didn't log on. So I think there's some follow-up necessary to make sure that every site is doing it.
I helped with those reports, in fact, so I know very well.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Austin, maybe you can circle back to me or the board or whatever. I'd love to hear the answer about how we know whether we're not dropping kids at the start.
Yeah, some thoughts and some data on that. Tonight's not the night for it, but we can absolutely do that.
Fair enough. Okay, if there are no more questions, Mr. Darby, your hand is up, but I don't know if it's from before or for a new. By your quizzical look, I'm guessing it's from before.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll lower it.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
I know this is an unfamiliar interface for you. Okay, so thank you very much, Ms. Conaway. That was a great report. And then moving on to 7C, safety update.
We're going to have Mike Jacobs and Karen Henricks both touch on the safety update. This is Mike's work has been really exemplary in this area, and you're going to see some real evidence. We tried to include quite a few pictures so you can really get a sense of it instead of just talking about it. And Mike, no pressure. You have 46 seconds to go through your slides.
I will do my best.
All right, we're just joking. Go ahead and do a good job. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Can we all see that? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Mike, we got you. It's perfect.
Terrific. So in July, we formed a COVID-19 safety group focused on the safe reopening of schools. That group is comprised of representation from both certificated and classified employees unions. And those individuals are Terry Baldwin, Meb Steiner, Terry Curtis, and Mimi Park. Hamilton Hitchings and Eileen Kim were voted in by PTAC. We also have Rosie Masterhazy from Safe Routes to Schools, two side administrators, including Adam Nelson from JLS and Jim Sherman from Hoover. Rosemary Dow, who is our district nurse, joined us, along with directors Jennifer Baker and Cynthia Lolang Perez, who have joined us from special education, and some of us from the district office. So on behalf of PAUSD, we just want to give a shout out to these folks and thank you all for your time, your support, and dedication to helping to keep PAUSD and the broader community safe and healthy. So Santa Clara County updated their social distancing protocols based on science and research that's been collected. These protocols serve as the foundation for the work our PAUSD safety teams are doing to help keep us all safe and healthy. At the front office of every school, you'll find this COVID-19 prepared sign signifying that the school site has gone through each required step from the Santa Clara County protocols. Now, these foundational requirements are being discussed in our C19 safety group as we're discussing positive opportunities to implement them further. But those safety requirements are signage and distribution, personnel training, individual control measures, hand washing and hand sanitizing protocols, cleaning and disinfecting protocols, measures to maintain social distancing, and compliance procedures. The first topic I'd like to cover is signage and distribution. As you can see in this photo, we've laminated large signs and posted them in the office spaces. We also posted signs at appropriate locations throughout our campuses. We've posted C19 prepared documents, as you'll see in the next slide. Other signs include a notice not to enter the facility with C19 symptoms on every exterior door. Maintaining a minimum of 6-foot distance. Sneezing and coughing into a cloth or tissue, or if not available, into your elbow. Face covering requirements, except if medically inadvisable, of course. And not to shake hands or engage in any unnecessary physical contact. Our custodial teams are posting deep cleaning and disinfecting checklists. As you can see in the photo to your left, those checklists are being signed by either the custodial lead or site supervisors during every shift to make sure that our sites are being cleaned and disinfected properly. The photo to the right shows the Santa Clara County COVID-19 protocols posted on the front door here at Gunn High School. It's the cluster of 7 forms, including the C19 check mark in green, which I shared earlier. Our employees have gone through a series of training modules that we built according to Santa Clara County guidelines specifically. That training was offered using the Keenan Safe Schools platform, which allowed employees to take the training virtually. Some of those topics covered in the trainings include how to prevent C19 from spreading, screening for C19 symptoms, the need to stay home and get tested if experiencing new or unexplained C19 symptoms, when it's safe to return to work if symptomatic or tested positive for C19, hand washing practices, the proper use of face coverings, and the importance of social distancing. We've implemented a lot of individual site control measures, including screening. Some of those safety measures include making sure that employees who can work from home are permitted to do so, if they can do so efficiently. Employees have been directed not to come to work if sick or exhibiting C19 symptoms. Required C19 symptom screenings at the beginning of each shift for all, including employees, vendors, and contractors. Employees and visitors are required to properly wear face coverings. Office spaces have been equipped with sneeze guards, as you can see in the photo to your right. HVAC filters have been changed district-wide. HVAC fans and windows are being used to increase outside air, and proper protective equipment has been provided to all employees, including face masks, shields, gloves, and other work-specific protection. Jumping back to screening, again, we are requiring that all employees, vendors, or contractors complete a screening process at the beginning of their shift or visit if they are to enter any of our buildings. On the left, we have an example of our online screening process, which was designed by Amy Love and Sarah Pattenroy from IT. This virtual screener can be done from home and before anyone starts their commute to work, which is great. The screener asks 3 very basic yes or no questions designed by the Santa Clara County. You'll find QR codes much like the one shown here on this slide throughout our campuses. The QR code was designed to help employees quickly fill out the screening process. We currently have a hard copy version of the screener as well. It's available if for any reason the virtual screening process is not available. And that hard copy version is shown there on the right. It's important to know that we are monitoring all input from the screening process throughout the day. So information from the screening process is available to site supervisors and human resources. And this is not something that we are checking once in the morning and walking away from. We are diligently monitoring the district and our specific sites with the goal to help flatten the curve. Now, the slide shows an example of data we retrieved from JLS Middle School on August 11th. We had 26 employees on campus that day and all answered no to the screening questions. Let's talk about hand washing and hand sanitizing. Frequent hand washing and the use of hand sanitizer is critical, obviously. Soap and water and hand sanitizer are available to all our employees. Hand washing and other sanitary facilities are operational, always fully stocked. Dispensers, touch-free and manual, have been deployed at all main points of entry and throughout the district. Additional hydration stations, water bottle stations are deployed at water fountains district-wide as well. Before school started, cleaning and disinfecting was being managed in 3 phases. Phase 1 included was that all custodial staff went through cleaning and disinfecting training. This happened twice with subject matter experts. Phase 2, deep cleaning with activity checklists were deployed, as I mentioned earlier, signed and dated by custodial lead or site supervisor. And phase 3, again, same, but with disinfecting checklists. Now that school has started, high traffic areas are being cleaned frequently, including restrooms. High contact surfaces are being frequently disinfected, including door handles, handrails, counters, tables, telephones, etc. Disinfectant wipes are available for use to our staff. Sanitizing spray and other cleaning materials are also available in all classrooms and office spaces. I'm excited to say that electrostatic spraying technology has been deployed district-wide and is being used to disinfect all school sites and school buses. I'd like to share a quick video.
Welcome back, Palo Alto Unified, and thank you for your patience and support needed to navigate a safe and successful return of our essential staff. We know these trying times bring many questions and concerns, and that's why we've been working hard to stay up to date and current in our ever-changing world. As news and information change, we have been right there, finding the most adequate way to keep our staff and students safe, looking for new ideas to give us a leg up in safety and sustainability for our employees. Enter the first cordless electrostatic sprayer, a new device using some basic science to further the effectiveness of our product supply. Electrostatic sprayers positively charge the dispensed droplets to repel each other for greater coverage while adding an electrostatic force, clinging them to our surfaces. This added power helps the solution coat our items without the need for overspray or wiping. Staying updated as to what products effectively kill the coronavirus, we have found new Betco Fight Back solution. While most products are chloride-based, this is a revolutionary disinfectant based from citric acid, making it non-asthmatic triggering and safe enough to use even in preschools. While most disinfectants currently on the market are requiring a 10-minute set dwell time, this solution will cut that in half to 5 minutes. And once applied, will not require wiping, and it leaves a streak-free finish on glass or plexiglass. We will be using these solutions daily, both on buses and in classrooms to help ensure your safety. We're in this together, but please remember the best way to protect yourself and those around you will always be to wear a mask, wash your hands regularly, and maintain social distance when possible. Thank you.
So a number of mitigating strategies have also been implemented to maintain social distancing. Social distancing of 6 feet or more has been implemented in accordance with Santa Clara County guidance. We have site access protocols, including the opportunity to make appointments. Utilization of virtual meetings are a priority. Staggered employee schedules have been implemented. Occupancy limitation protocols are in place. Staff lounges are currently closed. That's a new guidance. One-way path of travel, enter in through one way and exit through another, is also a strategy we're utilizing. We're also doing work in regards to social distancing markers. So social distancing markers are being managed in 3 different phases. Phase 1 is now complete. That included office spaces, staff workrooms, staff lounge areas, staff multi-stall restrooms. Phase 2 has started. That includes outside standing markers for classrooms, outside standing markers for restrooms, and outside learning spaces. Phase 3 hasn't started yet, but I will show a video, a photo rather, of some work that we have done in that area as an example. So here are some photos that we can share. This is from JLS. As you can see, the markers have been evenly placed, 6 foot apart, right down the center of the hallway. This is from Palo Alto High School. The hallway is large enough so that we could implement the 2-way directional arrows. And this photo is from Gunn High School. You can see that we have a perimeter around the secretary's desk along with the social distancing markers throughout the building. This is from Palo Alto High School. And this is from Nixon Elementary. If you look close at the Nixon Elementary photo, you can sort of see the sneeze guard that's been implemented at the secretary's desk. They are clear, so they're hard to catch in the photos, but you can see that there. So phase 2 again has been started. This is from Walter Hayes. We've implemented spirit markers. They are the wildcats, and so these are wildcat paw prints. These are being painted outside of the exterior doors. These are social distancing standing markers outside of classrooms, and in the blue. So in between each classroom, we change the color so that students can easily identify their standing markers. This is an example of work we've done on the interior. Again, this is the only area where we've done any work in regards to the inside learning spaces. But this is from Addison Elementary. So in terms of compliance procedures, we're regularly evaluating each site for compliance with Santa Clara County social distancing protocols. And as you know, they're changing on a regular. Any additional safety measures needed will be implemented. And we're encouraging all employees to let their immediate supervisor know if additional safety measures are needed. Some additional photos. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Now, if there's any community questions, this is the time to raise your hand. I see one. Again, doing her her very effective imitation of Mr. Dauber pre-election days, it's Meb Steiner. Go ahead, Ms. Steiner.
Thank you, Mev Steiner, once again. I want to start off by just saying a huge thank you to everyone who has been putting in so much work on this. And there is so much to do. And whenever we have the safety committee meetings, as we give feedback and input, more things come up, and some of the concerns have been there. And it's a heavy lift. It is a lot. And I just want to thank everyone who has been involved in this process. I want to kind of take a step back, I guess. All of these protocols, all of the signage, all of the checklist and all of that is incredibly important, and we must, continue to do that. But I focus on the social distancing piece. We are all kind of beginning to think of social distancing as maintaining 6 feet of distance. And quite frankly, social distancing starts before that. It means minimizing contact with others and reducing those contacts. It's critical that we think in those terms and allow for the remote work to be as extensive as possible for employees. It's mentioned in the plan here. It's also part of the July 2nd order of the Santa Clara Public Health Department, saying that any work that can be done remotely must be done, and employers should require it. We will need a robust remote work infrastructure, just as we need a robust distance learning infrastructure, because chances are there may be an exposure risk, something might have to shut down, and I urge us to keep that in mind. I also urge us to keep that in mind as we start bringing staff back and really think about, is this something that must be done in person? The best method of reducing the risk of COVID-19 exposure is by avoiding contact with other people. And only when you are required to be there in person should you follow all those protocols. And we should think of a decision tree. Can this be done remotely? If yes, do it remotely. If not, then can it be delayed until it's safer to gather and do it? If yes, delay it. If no, then and only then do we move to providing training or work or anything that we do in the safest way possible, following all of these protocols that we have in place. We need to protect our vulnerable staff. We need to really maximize remote work options and keep as many people apart as possible, so that we are available when we come back in person to support our students. And quite frankly, it'll be even more important when we bring our students back, because we need to minimize the contacts with them. So I just urge us to think of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Guan, followed by Terry Baldwin.
Hi, this is Brian Guan again. I brought up the question about whether the district is considering incorporating testing into part of this safety protocol. And I appreciate the really extensive slides that you're showing in terms of the cleaning, the social distancing. What is missing seems to be testing. Do we think testing should be part of this program, or will that be considered for future extension? And that's all the question I have. I do not have a prepared statement in the last 3 minutes.
Thank you. All right, next is Terry Baldwin, followed by Karen Sereznak.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Ms. Steiner said about the social distancing. And I agree that in order to stop the spread, it's more no contact with outside people than your family or cluster. And then 6 feet of social distance when that isn't possible. Even when we saw pictures of the summer program this summer, nobody in those pictures were 6 feet apart, and that worries me, especially when we're considering bringing back, small groups of students that we're not going to be able to social distance, and that is a major requirement. And so that's something we need to talk about. So I just would like to say that our own training had said that as well. Not come in contact, then 6 feet of social distance. So thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker will be Karen Sereznik.
Hi. At first, I just want to say that you can see how much work and effort was put into this plan. And we really appreciate trying to keep everyone in our community safe. And everything looks great. The one thing that is a little concerning, and this is mostly for when we bring the kids back to school, so I just want to know if there's a plan, is the most consistent thing besides social distancing is hand washing. And even staying 6 feet away from everybody, there are shared surfaces, and hand washing is one of the most important ways, not just for COVID-19, but for any illness, to stay healthy. And the children do not have access to warm running water in the bathrooms. If we wind up going back in October or November, the water is freezing cold. The children are not going to wash their hands properly for 20 seconds, rinsing well the way they should be with freezing cold water. And this is an issue before the pandemic, but it is definitely highlighted now that we are in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are a couple of people with their hands raised that came in after the speaker queue was closed. You're welcome to email your comments to board@pausd.org. Okay, board member questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I think we'll, Ms. DiBrienza, you've got your physical hand up.
Yeah, I didn't mean to delay. That's like unmuting yourself and putting up your hand.
That was like a fake out move. You had me going there.
No major things, but just wanted to thank staff for all the work, and it's really encouraging. I mean, I know that we really want our schools open, and we know we can't open them until they're safe, and tremendous work has been done to increase safety. And that's really what we're looking for as we work towards finding a way to open again. So I'm really grateful for all the work, and to see the sprayers and the spacing, and extensive work has been done, and it's really good to see, and it gives me hope that we will be able to open again sooner than later.
Thank you. Amen to that. Okay, seeing no other hands up, we've got one item left on our agenda. Dr. Austin, or one item beyond the information items. Dr. Austin, do we need to extend?
No.
No.
I think we're gonna be fine.
Okay, then that puts all the pressure on Ms. Hendricks and her team to deliver a very informative presentation in a short amount of time. So
it is. It's informative. It is important, and it can be done quickly and efficiently. So, Ms. Hendricks and team.
Absolutely. Your HR team knows how to work quickly and efficiency. So we're going to share with you some of the things we've been doing around recruiting, retaining, onboarding a really strong workforce on behalf of our students, as well as some new efficiencies that we've inserted into our department that we're really excited about. So I'd like to introduce Certificated Human Resources Director Lisa Hickey and Classified Personnel Director Ann Lay to tell you more about our work.
Okay, good evening. We are pleased to be here tonight to share a short update from the Human Resources Department. And we start off with a core value to our department that is part of the PAUSD promise: from recruitment through retirement, employees evolve, grow, and promote. And we're really proud of our amazing workforce. This slide shows our certificated employee demographics. We have a total of 913 certificated employees this year. That includes 71 management employees. And in comparison to last year, we had 951. It also gives you a breakdown of ethnicity, which we did a 2-year comparison, and it's relatively the same, as well as the years of service for our certificated employees.
I'll speak to our classified employee demographics. So you'll see on the screen that for 2021, we're currently at 795 classified employees, 17 of those being management. Last year it was 839. And then you can see our breakdown of female to male ratio and our ethnic breakdown. And as Lisa highlighted, it is very similar to last year. And then our years of service.
This next slide does a 2-year comparison of our new hires. The blue and the green are certificated positions that are broken out by subject area. And there were 36 new hires this year for certificated as compared to 60 for last school year. You'll see in the orange, it's CSEA positions. I know the number looks low at 9, but with all of the changes and unknowns with what our enrollment it was going to be, we were really cautious. And with classified positions, we do hire on a little bit more of a year-round basis. And so we do anticipate some increases to the CSEA new hire positions.
And I'll just highlight from that last slide that the number was inflated last year due to us hiring to replace staff rehab and outside contract service for student attendance. This next slide is in regards to our retirement and resignations for both classified and certificated. It is a 2-year comparison. And I'll just say overall, we are down. I think our staff is being very cautious. Most that have resigned or retired have said they are moving out of the area or just need better work-life balance due to the pandemic.
Next, we're going to talk a little bit about our interviewing and hiring efficiencies, especially during the shutdown. When schools closed in March, it was right at the beginning of our hiring system and season, and we had to shift our hiring practices online. And we were able to successfully hire all of our new employees using Zoom for interviews. We also have our interview notes and debriefing documents that we are able to use Google Docs and forms. Our department has created an online video recording for orientation for both our certificated and classified new employees that goes over important information such as payroll and benefits and how to put in for a substitute. And it's really nice to have those videos because as we hire, especially classified employees throughout the year, those are always available. Also, last week, we upgraded our ASOP system frontline, which includes absence management and tracking of professional development. And that will improve data security and operational efficiency. And it will allow for the absence system for a leave balance to be live. So employees can see how much leave they have, as well as eventually we will be able to log into the ASOP system using our smartphones, which will be very helpful for many of our employees.
So I can't express how excited I am that I think this has been a goal I understand for the HR department since 2000, since Candace Simpson was the assistant superintendent of HR. She was also my biology teacher at Pali. But we finally launched last week, and I'm thrilled with the partnership of IT and cost savings of building this in-house. And I got to give a shout out to Danny Lee and Josh Hung, Natalie Figueroa from the HR team. And I worked on this to change our 48-page new hire packet. And I know the board went through that themselves of filling out all those papers to a total online system that was built in-house. All of the forms have been done and created by our IT team. Laserfish is a secure website, so now we don't have to worry about those random IDs and social securities coming into us in different manners, so they can now be uploaded. So anyway, there is a photo below of our file cabinets, and that is just a small portion of the amount of file cabinets that we have in HR and in payroll. We have over 21 file cabinets that with this new system, we will be able to get rid of. So I'm super excited about that. And Lisa, if you want to go to the next slide. This just shows some of the workflow that was created. All of our hiring analysts get to send a link to our new hires, which starts the process. The employee will fill out all of their new hire paperwork online. Danny and the IT team along with Natalie built in logic. So when we receive that information back based on the employee's job title and FTE, it will route the proper retirement paperwork to them to complete, will be submitted to us. And if you can imagine us with stacks of paper and ripping these apart and scanning them to all the different departments, based on each individual piece of paper in these new hire packets, it will be routed to all these different files, which are in HR and in payroll and in the workman's comp office. So anyway, we're super thrilled and excited and have launched, and it's been great. The fact that it's in-house, you know, our teams are editing and modifying things as we run into things. So anyway, a huge shout out. We didn't think it was going to go through this quickly, but Danny and the IT team did a phenomenal job to make this happen.
And our priorities for this school year is to continue with the online onboarding Laserfish project and eventually move all of the paper personnel files online. Increase communication through our quarterly HR newsletters for all of our employees. And we want to develop innovative recruiting activities as possible in a COVID environment. Our second annual recruiting fair was scheduled for March 14th. Of course, that was canceled. And so we are just going to have to be creative and think about other ways to recruit. There have been a lot of different things like virtual job fairs that we can look into participating. And finally, we also want to focus on employee wellness. We promised this picture was pre-COVID. It was taken in February of 2020 when we did start Wellness Wednesdays. I think we can continue to hold Wellness Wednesday events in an online format, so it's safe for our employees, and also just outreach for Employee Assistance Program, EAP. We do realize that this is a challenging time for everyone, and of course our employees included, and EAP can help in a variety of different ways, including mental health support, financial planning, and we've even offered it to some of our employees who unfortunately have been affected by the fires and have had to be evacuated from their homes. So we are looking forward to some of the great work that we can do in HR this year. And that is the end of our slideshow.
Wow.
So, and just to wrap this all up to you, you know, with all the important work going on, we are committed to being a resource to the humans in the district. That is our primary function. And we just want to encourage our staff to keep reaching out to us with their needs, their thoughts. That's what we're there for. And we really appreciate and welcome their contact with us.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes left in our scheduled time. So let's see if we can get through this item. Any community comments? Not seeing any hands raised. So we'll go to board member questions and comments. Any? And I'll start, and I'm sure I speak for everybody. That was a phenomenal presentation. And I know, just like Ann said, we have all been, this has been a sore spot, the automation and going paperless in the HR department has been a sore spot as long as I've been involved with PAUSD. That sounds like quite a bit longer. And so to see this actually finally come to fruition is heartwarming. I mean, I don't think, I know it doesn't seem to compare in scale to some of the other things we talked about today, but I think this is vital to if we can't keep our operations effective and cost efficient, we cannot serve students the way we need to. So this is absolutely vital work, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Mr. Brienza.
I'm just really happy to see the 21 file cabinets going away. That was something that always seemed kind of insane, that was still what we did. So thank you for this. It's really good to see those efficiencies in place. I'm sure it'll free up time, it'll free up space, it'll free up energy, and we'll be able to look at, you know, further diversifying our workforce and just efficiencies left and right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. Okay, thank you all. Okay, we've got left on our agenda information items and board operations. The information items are, there's no staff report, and if any members of the community or members of the board would like to speak to any of the information items, they should raise their hand now and we'll just take them. They're only the 2 items. We can just take them out of order or whatever order people weigh in on. Any comments on the information items? Mr. Lee.
Yeah, just got a quick question because I know we're all tired. So I had a student asking about the title.
Well, just to be clear, I mean, I don't know how short your question is going to be. Our meeting has to end by rule by 10:30 unless we extend it. So is your question going to be short enough that we're going to need to extend our meeting?
I hope so. We'll see. So I had a student ask me about what the content covered in the staff modules for Title IX will be. She mentioned that like so far, all the training that she heard staff is getting is on workplace harassment, and she was wondering if there's anything else that they would be notified about.
Dr. Austin, might I suggest that somebody circle around and answer Mr. Lee's question? Give him a better answer than we'll be able to give him in the kind of 1 minute or 2 minutes that we have.
Absolutely. We can take care of that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Seeing no other questions or comments on the information items, we're to board operations. This is the section where board members report on anything that they're doing or anything they want to share of an administrative nature. Mr. Dorop, I see your hand up, and then Ms. DeBrienza.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to help out for about an hour or so on Friday evening, I think, handing out textbooks at Gunn. And it was a really great opportunity to see the operation. And I mean, volunteers that came out, staff, teachers, parents, to get textbooks to students, and everyone was lined up, and it was very efficient. And it was really, really, really great to see. So I just wanted to report that. It was awesome.
Thank you. Ms. DeBrienza.
I had similar experience at Ohlone last week, which was great, and hearing good things from lots of other sites, which is wonderful. And I completely forgot what it was that I really wanted to say. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to make sure that everyone saw, I believe it was in the consent calendar, but the decision was made, I believe, by Board President Collins to keep our school assignments the same, given everything that was going on. So if anyone was wondering who their liaison was, it's the same as it was this past year. So I plan this week to be reaching out to my schools that I haven't talked to in a while, and reconnecting with them and trying to plan a PTA meeting or something. So I just want to state that.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That is a change from our past practice, and I don't expect it will continue. But given the difficulties with reestablishing connections this year, it seemed to make sense just to carry it over from last year. The one thing that I'll add is, in terms of a board calendar, we started the practice last year, or maybe even the year before, of trying to have a fully scheduled out board calendar for the year. And which I think is really important for making sure that we get to the things that we know are the most important, rather than be driven by the things that are just in front of us. And so Dr. Austin and I did some work on that, and I think we should, by the next meeting, I think, Dr. Austin, be able to present a board calendar for the year.
I don't see any reason we can't have something that takes us out at least to January, maybe beyond. So absolutely, we can have something on this next one.
And obviously that's not a Procrustean bed, but it does give us placeholders for all the important things that we know we need to get to in order to do our job effectively. If there's no other reports, looking at Mr. Dauber, you got any report? You're good. All right. With no other agenda items, we are adjourned.